Franz Empire, Lahane District. The tolling of bells echoed above the square as carriage wheels rattled over the cobblestones. Inside the swaying carriage, Olivia rested her cheek on one hand and gazed out the window at the spired buildings passing by. She was the eldest daughter of Duke Madeline. Across from her, Sally leaned forward. "Miss, next Monday you're going to the palace to meet His Highness the Crown Prince again, right?" Olivia drew back her gaze and answered softly, "Yes." Sally clasped her hands to her chest. "You just met on Wednesday, and now they're sending a carriage for you again on Monday. This is practically a fairy tale romance. His Highness must be very fond of you." Olivia lowered her eyes. "A fairy tale romance." Leopold stood in the palace corridor, Princess Maria on his arm. "Why are you here?" Maria covered half her face with a folding fan and leaned against Leopold's shoulder. Leopold let out a faint sigh. "Was today the day I promised to see the princess? I've been absent-minded lately. I actually forgot the day we were supposed to meet. Crown Prince Leopold had been my fiancé since I was 9. From childhood to adulthood. Ours was a marriage, arrangement born of necessity, not love." Leopold wrapped an arm around another woman's waist and bent close to speak to her on the dance floor. That was an expression he had never once shown me. Only one-sided feelings kept growing. Even so, I still held on to hope. If I tried just a little harder, maybe he would finally look at me. Leopold took Olivia's hand. "To make up for breaking our appointment today, how about we meet next Monday?" Olivia looked at the curve of his smiling lips. In love, I'd become this foolish. The first time I saw the Crown Prince was at his 11th birthday banquet. Young Leopold had reached out his hand. "Olivia, what a lovely name." Leopold stood in the center of the hall and extended his hand in invitation. "Let's have lunch together next Monday. I'll send a carriage to pick you up." It was the first time he had ever asked me first. Olivia leaned against the carriage window. Father would surely be pleased when he heard about tomorrow. Maybe, for once, he might even praise me. A while later, Olivia walked through a bustling shopping street with Sally close behind. Sally stopped in front of a display window and gasped. Olivia turned her head. "Is it really that beautiful?" In the window was a pink lace dress, Madame Pluto's newest design. Olivia studied the dress. "Sally, find a time next week and have someone from this shop come to the estate." Sally whipped around, eyes shining. "Miss, are you finally going to buy this kind of dress?" Olivia looked away. "Not for me. For Essela." Sally dropped her shoulders with a sigh. "How long do you plan to keep looking after Miss Essela? You always wear such dull colors yourself." Olivia stopped, turned, and gave a faint smile. Essela lifted her skirt and called out brightly, "Sister." Olivia smiled faintly. "Maybe next time." Sally lugged a heavy suitcase. "You're the Crown Prince's fiancée, and yet you always dress so plainly. And this time, too, are we really just checking the mailbox and going straight back?" Olivia answered softly, "Yes." Two women, standing at a street corner, lowered their voices. "Is that the future Crown Princess?" "That's right, the illegitimate daughter." The mockery slipped into her ears. There's something scheming about her from head to toe. There's no way she became his fiancée by chance. Sally abruptly stopped and clenched her fists, shouting at their retreating backs. Olivia caught Sally by the arm, her gaze calm. "Let it go, Sally." She kept walking, letting the rumors fade behind her. Sally stopped in place. "But miss..." Olivia glanced back with a faint smile. "I just don't want to cause a scene. Come on." Sally lowered her eyes and grunted. "They're always gossiping behind your back. If it were me, I'd never put up with it. Don't mind the rumors. Let's see if there's any mail. I have a feeling there'll be a reply today." This was Olivia's one secret amusement. It had all begun by chance, when she started corresponding with a soldier she had never met. A year earlier, her younger brother Jed had gone to the front lines. Wanting to support him, Olivia sent supplies to his unit. Jed rejected them, and the supplies were returned unopened. Olivia didn't give up and sent another package. This time, the sender's name was changed to Liffagreen. Sally rushed into the room. "Miss, I heard the unit has started using the supplies you sent." Olivia put down her book and turned. Really? After that, no package was ever returned again. Olivia lowered her eyes, even under a false name. As long as they accepted them, that was enough. One afternoon, Sally handed her a letter. "Miss, there's a letter from an unknown sender." Olivia opened the envelope and pulled out a sheet of white paper. "To Miss Liffagreen, my deepest thanks." Liffagreen held the letter in both hands, the corners of her lips lifting slightly. It was the first reply she had ever received. For the next year, the letters never stopped, but it had now been 6 months since the last one. "I hope he's safe." Sally stepped forward and took Olivia's hand. "Miss, maybe he's just busy because he's a soldier. Let's check the mail first, then go buy a new journal." A rude shout cut through their conversation. "Hey, you there, fancy lady. Are your ears made of gold? Can't you hear us?" Sally spun around toward the tax collectors gathered at the mouth of an alley. "I can't believe it. There's still people around here. Collecting tolls?" Olivia said nothing, her eyes fixed on the alley entrance, then started walking straight toward it. "Miss, please don't go near people like that. Let's take another route." A guard reached out, trying to stop her. Miss. Sally let out a scream. "Miss." Olivia passed beneath the archway. "That's enough." The collectors stopped and stared at the woman before them. "What did that girl just say?" Another folded his arms. "Hey, noble miss. You look pretty confident. Think bringing a knight or two Means you can stick your nose where it doesn't belong? Fine, seize them all. Olivia stared ahead, her gaze cold. In an instant, the two guards drew their swords and pressed them against the tax collectors' backs in perfect unison. The men froze, cold sweat running down their faces. The collectors cried out, "Where the hell did these knights come from?" Sweat beaded on their foreheads. One clenched his fist. "Damn it, back off. All of you back off." One collector seized a nearby civilian, pulled a dagger from his clothes, and pressed it to the hostage's throat. The blade broke the skin. Blood dripped down the metal. Edwin, hidden in the shadow of his cloak, his red eyes shifted slightly. What a nuisance. What are those fools doing? Useless, the lot of them. Is there anyone else over there? Olivia turned, her hair scattering in the wind, and her eyes met those of the man in the shadows. Impossible. That can't be. What? What are you doing? Don't move. Now, do it. I said, don't come any closer. A scream split the air and echoed down the street. The knights pinned the collector to the ground, their knees pressed hard into his back. Are you all right? Beneath the archway, Olivia looked ahead at a man in a dark cloak surrounded by knights. He stepped forward, passed through the circle, and walked straight toward her. Sally hid behind her, clutching Olivia's sleeve with both hands. The man stopped in front of Olivia. She tilted her head up, lips parting slightly. Are you hurt? The man swayed, suddenly losing his balance. He pitched forward. Olivia instinctively threw out her arms and caught him. His heavy weight fell against her shoulder. Sally screamed, "Miss!" Edwin parted his lips and let out a weak sound. I'm terribly sorry. He opened his eyes again, red pupils fixed ahead, a faint curve touching his mouth. My legs have no strength. I can't move at all. How should I repay you for saving my life? Edwin raised a hand to his chest. Without the help of this kind lady, I might already have. He opened his eyes, and a drop of moisture slid from the corner of one eye. Sally's eyes widened. Is he crying? I don't know how I could ever repay such kindness. Sally stared at the tear on Edwin's face. He totally forced that out. This man, Olivia, looked over his clothing. Judging by his attire, he seemed to be a noble. But who exactly was he? She knew nothing about him. Olivia suddenly froze. Wait, black hair, red eyes. The Archduke of Wakand. He had claimed victory in every war, and it was he who had ended the 3-year Hapedi War. Edwin, clad in steel armor, hand on his sword hilt, stood amid smoke and ruin. The ruler of the North, the ruthless hero of war, Edwin Lowell, Archduke of Wakand. A killer feared by all. Olivia stared at the man before her, a drop of cold sweat forming at her temple. Edwin tilted his head, a gentle smile on his face. There was no way this could be the same man. Olivia folded her hands before her. I'm just glad I could help. This is more than mere help. You're my benefactor. Once I find my knights, I will repay you at once. In a place this chaotic, he was wandering alone, without a single knight or mercenary by his side. Edwin glanced around. Where do my knights go? Olivia watched his back. If he were truly an imperial noble, he would never come this close to me so easily. After all, dirty blood runs in my veins. Those voices echoed in her mind. Shameless. An illegitimate daughter daring to be the crown prince's fiancée. How pathetic. Olivia pulled herself back to the present and smiled. I'm really fine. More importantly, where did you get separated from your knights? Edwin pointed deeper down the street, near the fountain where there are lots of carriages. Olivia followed the direction of his finger. The fountain with lots of carriages. You mean that place? The fountain in the Four Seasons garden splashed softly as Olivia led Edwin through the archway. Olivia stopped and pointed to the fountain ahead. From here, you can go on by yourself. It's close now. You won't get lost. Edwin turned to face her. Won't you come with me? He lowered his head slightly, his tone earnest. If I find my knights, I must give you something precious. Olivia closed her eyes and shook her head gently. I appreciate the thought. Edwin pressed. Then, can we meet again? Olivia opened her eyes, her gaze calm. I'm afraid that would be difficult as well. Edwin lowered his eyes. I see. Edwin suddenly stepped closer and bent his head to look at Olivia. Then all I can do is pray that fortune favors me again and lets me meet you once more. Edwin looked into her eyes, smiling faintly. If that day really comes, I hope you'll allow me to repay your kindness. Olivia stood there in a daze. No one had ever said such words to her, not even her own fiancé. Olivia lowered her eyes. Who in the world is this man? He's only being kind because he doesn't know who I am. Wake up, Olivia. Her fingers tightened against her skirt until her knuckles turned white. Olivia raised her head. Just so you know, Edwin, I have very high standards. I won't accept anything that fails to satisfy me. Edwin laughed softly. That's excellent. I've always been a greedy man, so naturally, I keep only precious things around me. Edwin lowered his head with a smile, red eyes locking onto hers. You may look forward to it. Carriage wheels rolled over stone with a dull rumble. A brown-haired knight strode in and pressed a hand to his forehead with a sigh. Honestly, what is with that outfit? Are you a clown? What are you up to this time? Edwin stopped, the side of his face slipping into shadow, his expression turning cold. The knight froze in place, cold sweat sliding down his face. The Archduke of Wakand had actually made that expression. Toward the daughter of the faction leader he despised so much, he had shown that kind of look. Winston hurried after him. Your Highness, did something happen between you and Miss Madeline? Or were you planning to take your anger out on Miss Madeline while Vice Captain Jed is away? Edwin stopped, in silence. He turned back, his gaze icy enough to cut. Winston shrank his neck, cold sweat soaking his back. What on earth is going on? For 10 years, the Archduke had been exiled by the Emperor to the battlefield, rolling among the dead for a full decade, never once mixing with those pampered noble ladies of the Empire. He and Madeline's second son, Jed, were sworn enemies, every meeting between them bristling with hostility. How could he possibly go see that vice-captain's sister? Edwin looked away and called quietly, "Winston." Winston stiffened at once and answered loudly, "Yes, sir." Edwin pulled down the brim of his hood to cover half his face. "I don't want to go back to the palace." Winston froze and let out a short gasp. Edwin turned and headed down the street. "If I go back, all I'll hear is the same old nonsense. Hand over my merits or swear another oath. Since the Emperor only knows how to babble, why not simply?" Winston cut him off in horror. "Archduke, no, young master." Edwin stopped and suddenly shouted, "It's too suffocating." Winston pressed a hand to his chest, calming his ragged breathing, then ran a hand through his hair. "Honestly, if it were me, I wouldn't want to go back either. But now, it's different from before. We're ready. The archducal territory has become strong enough." Winston looked into the distance. "As long as we recover the quartz mine that belonged to the former Archduchess, everything will go as your highness wishes." Edwin lowered his hood, hiding the red gleam in his eyes. "Yes, just as I wish." Sunset settled over the Madeline ducal estate. Olivia pushed open the heavy doors, with Sally following close behind into the hall. A bouquet of pale, purple flowers rested on the sofa. Sally rushed over. "Miss, His Highness the Crown Prince sent flowers." Olivia reached out to touch the petals, her fingertips trembling slightly as she gathered them into her arms. What a strange coincidence. They were exactly the same flowers that Knight had given me a year ago. From the bouquet, Olivia drew out a purple card. What did it say? She lowered her head and read, her green eyes trembling slightly. The handwriting was neat. "If my lady knows the meaning of these flowers, then all the better. But just in case, I've written it down. They mean, the destination of my heart is by your side. I look forward to seeing you next Monday." Olivia hugged the bouquet, a smile touching her lips. Sally leaned in. "What did His Highness send today to make your face turn as red as a flower, miss?" This was the Leopold I knew, a gentle man who thought of the language of flowers and sent them to me. There must be some reason why Leopold acts that way now. Why else would he behave like that? Olivia stood by the window with a purple bouquet in her arms. Perhaps my mixed blood is what makes him feel ashamed. If everything could just return to the way it should be, perhaps he would love me too. If I do my utmost, everything will come true. In the darkness, a woman's face emerged. She lay in bed, reaching out a pale hand. "Lifo, my dear, don't forget. If you do your very best, every wish can come true. Lifo, my poor child, Olivia." "Olivia, Miss Madeline, Mississippi, you absolutely must not forget. The Madeline ducal house became a laughingstock because of you." Olivia lifted her face, tears spilling from her green eyes and tracing her pale cheeks. "It was all because of you. The Vagabond Street, Creening Bell, the place where I was born." Olivia curled up on the edge of a wooden bed. Gray rats crawled beneath it. Candlelight flickered. "Lifo, my baby, why are you crying?" Olivia looked up, tears filling her eyes. Even then, though I was still young, I'd already sensed it. The woman reached out a hand. The only faint light of my childhood was slowly going out. Olivia lay by her mother's side. I would never see the mother from my memories again. Listen carefully. Your father will be here soon." "Father? You always said he was dead." The woman lay on her sickbed and turned her head toward her daughter. "Mama Lit, I'm sorry. You have brothers and sisters there you've never met. It may feel strange at first, but you'll live more comfortably. You'll be happier." Tears welled at the corners of the woman's eyes as a faint smile touched her lips. "Lifo, you know, don't you? If you try your best, everything will come true." She pushed herself up and kissed her daughter's forehead. "My lovely girl, please live happily there." Rain lashed the graveyard. Olivia stood alone. In the rain, she looked down at the tombstone. A strange man approached under an umbrella. "Are you Olivia? I received the letter." Olivia stepped onto the carriage. Olivia stood before the estate, this place her mother had spoken of, grand and magnificent. The carriage stopped in the courtyard, guards lining both sides. The Duke stepped down, adjusted his collar, and looked down at the girl before him. Olivia lifted her face. She looked at the father she had longed for. "Excuse me, are you my father?" The Duke looked down at her, shadow covering his eyes. He let out a breath. "What a nuisance." Olivia lowered her head. "He didn't welcome me at all." The Duke turned and walked toward the door, pushing open the heavy wooden panels. Olivia hurried after him into the vast, empty hall. She stopped and looked around. The crystal chandelier cast back the light. This place was colder than any dream. A woman stood beside a bed of flowers, wearing a gentle smile. "There, you've returned." Olivia twisted the hem of her dress, fingertips trembling slightly. The Duke opened his arms and looked toward the woman on the steps. "Hazel, you said you would never send Essie Dash. La to the palace. I need someone to replace Essela." The woman left without even looking back. "Hazel." Olivia stood in the middle of the carpet as the maids gathered in the distance, whispering among themselves. Their gazes pricked like needles. The Duke actually did something like this. That silver hair really is Madeline blood. Cheap blood has stained a noble family. Their murmurs bored into her ears. Albert clapped his hands sharply, the crisp sound cutting through the whispers. "That's enough. Back to your duties, all of you. Albert walked up to Olivia. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mississippi. I am the Madeline family's head steward, Albert Lanchison. You must be tired. Please allow me to show you to your room first. From that day on, my life changed completely. At the end of the hallway, two maids stopped and whispered in hushed voices. Did you see those green eyes? I heard her mother was a street dancer. She must be nothing like Miss Essela. No wonder she cried so much yesterday. Rotten to the core. Low blood is always the same. That's why the Duke won't even look at her. I wonder which unlucky woman will have to be her nanny. Olivia curled up on the large bed. She opened her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. The happiness mother had promised had never appeared here. The nanny hummed softly behind the dressing mirror. Olivia sat on a tall stool, clutching her nightgown tightly. Nanny, I want to go outside today. The nanny swung the hairbrush and yanked her silver hair hard. No, miss, you know very well why. Olivia hunched her shoulders. Why? The nanny paused. Because the Duke is irritated every time he sees you. And the Duchess fell ill because of you. Don't you know that? Olivia froze, her pupils trembling. What did that mean? The old woman straightened up and gave a mocking laugh. Oh my, you really don't know a thing. Because of your appearance alone, the noble Madeline family became a laughingstock in society. You can't pretend all of this has nothing to do with you. Has no one ever told you the truth? Olivia lowered her eyes. The Duke and Duchess, who never used a quarrel, began fighting endlessly because of you. The eldest son walks on eggshells, the second son cries every night, and poor Miss Essela changed from the only daughter to the second daughter. All because you entered this house. Olivia's body trembled where she stood. The nanny bent close to her ear. Think carefully. Maybe it's all because of this hair. You were only allowed in because of this silver hair, weren't you? Olivia shook her head desperately, gripping her skirt. That's not true. I came because I'm father's daughter. The nanny let out a cold laugh and looked her over with icy eyes. Do you truly think you would have been allowed to step foot here without this hair? The nanny suddenly seized a lock of silver hair so hard that Olivia's neck jerked back. In that case, why don't we cut it off today? Olivia cried out, fat tears splashing onto the backs of her hands. And no, I don't want to cut it. The nanny let go and looked down at the girl collapsed on the floor. Miss, you really are selfish. She bent close, lips twisting. Do you want the Duke and Duchess to suffer every time they see this hair? Olivia pressed her lips together, tears pooling in her green eyes. Oh my, it suits you so very well, Mississippi. It perfectly matches someone of your station. Olivia stared into the mirror. Night had deepened outside, and wind stirred the heavy curtains. Lifo, your hair color is very special. There isn't a single thing Mama doesn't love about it. Olivia curled up in the chair, crying in small broken sobs, her shoulders shaking violently. A few days later, Olivia rose from bed and looked at the moldy bread on the table. I'm so hungry. She pushed open a heavy door. I'll just get something to eat and come right back, or Nanny will scold me again. Olivia felt her way along the wall, down the corridor. Moonlight cast shadows through the high windows. It's too dark. I can't see the way. Her toe struck a hard step. Olivia cried out, lost her balance, and crashed onto the cold marble. The heavy impact echoed through the hall. Oh dear, Liv. She remembered her mother drawing her into her arms. Didn't I tell you not to run like that? Olivia lifted her face, tears swimming in her green eyes. Her vision blurred. Hey, who's there? A woman's voice came from the end of the corridor. The Duchess approached, carrying a lamp. Firelight illuminated Olivia's pale face. You are? Olivia held her breath. Her heart pounded violently. Your Grace, I fell. I am sorry. The Duchess stood in silence. The nanny's words exploded in Olivia's mind. The Duchess fell ill because of you. Olivia lowered her head and curled into herself. I am sorry. I shouldn't have appeared before you. I shouldn't have been so thoughtless. The Duchess is ill, and it's all my fault. The Duchess stopped and looked down at the kneeling girl. Who told you that? Olivia knelt there, her voice almost too soft to hear. The nanny did. The Duchess fell silent. Candlelight flickered in the dark. Olivia squeezed her eyes shut. It's over. She must be angry. Nanny was right. I never should have come out. The Duchess reached out and lightly touched Olivia's short hair. Olivia looked up. A glimmer of light reflected in her green eyes. Kulme, can you stand? Olivia stood there blankly, staring at the Duchess's face, and tears spilled out all over again. Olivia sat at the dining table, staring at the food before her. The Duchess looked at Olivia and pointed to the bowl on the table. Drink some porridge. If you keep going hungry, you'll faint. Olivia lifted her face, her green eyes trembling slightly. If you don't eat enough now, how will you grow taller later? Honestly, Olivia grabbed the bread and stuffed it in her mouth, chewing hard and swallowing audibly. She lowered her head, clutching the bread in both hands as she devoured it. The Duchess watched Olivia, her gaze fixed and silent for a long time. Olivia picked up the cup and tipped back the juice. The Duchess stared at the top of Olivia's head, frowning slightly. What happened to your hair? It was neat when I saw you a few days ago. Olivia put down the cup and avoided her gaze. That's because Nanny cut it for me. She said people would curse it when they saw my hair. She said it would hurt them. She also said I should shave it all off. But I told her I didn't want that. Olivia sat on the tall chair, looking down at the floor. I am sorry. It's all my fault that the atmosphere here has become so bad. I am sorry. The Duchess stepped in front of Olivia and cupped her face. Let me make this clear, little one. None of this is your fault. Olivia looked up into the Duchess's eyes. Really? I really didn't do anything wrong. The Duchess looked at her, a faint smile touching her lips. Of course not. You did nothing wrong at all. Olivia lowered her head to stare at the floor. Thank goodness I didn't fall asleep, or Nanny would have scolded me again. The Duchess raised her head, her eyes sharpening. Nanny, bring the nanny to me at once. From that day on, everything changed as if by magic. Someone was calling her name. Olivia. Olivia turned, her hair shining in the sunlight. The Duchess turned slightly and reached out behind her. Say hello. This is your younger sister, Essela, hiding behind her skirts. Essela peeked out with half her face, her purple eyes fixed ahead. Essela let go of the fabric and took a tiny step forward. Sister. Olivia stood still, staring at the girl before her. Can I really call her that? Such a beautiful child. Olivia parted her lips and whispered softly, Essela. Miss, said the Duchess as she turned her face. I sent the nanny away. You don't have to listen to a person like that anymore. She's your real younger sister. You may call her by name. The Duchess gently patted Olivia's head. Cool, let's all go for a walk together. At the side, Essela waved cheerfully. Olivia, you also have 2 older brothers. The Duchess stopped before a portrait and pointed to the eldest son in the painting. Your eldest brother Conrad is 11. Your second brother Jed is 8. You can call them brother too, just like Essela does. Conrad is away at the academy, but they'll both be back today. Essela squirmed in the Duchess's arms. Brothers? Jed burst through the doorway and shouted, Mama! The Duchess set Essela down and opened her arms for him. Did you have fun, my dear? Jed threw himself into her embrace and complained with his face tipped up. You suddenly sent me to Grandma's house. I'm still mad at you. Olivia watched the mother and son hugging from a distance. But who is that? This is Olivia, the Duchess said. She's your sister. From now on, you'll be living together. Jed stared at Olivia, his purple eyes narrowing slightly. Sister? But she looks older than Essela. The Duchess nodded faintly. That's right. So she's also Essela's older sister. Jed smiled. Got it. Hello there. Olivia. Olivia stood frozen, her green eyes trembling. Ashelo, brother G dash. You idiot. A furious voice rang out from the top of the stairs. Conrad strode down, his short silver hair flashing in the light. She is not your sister. Conrad stopped at the edge of the steps, gray eyes burning. She isn't your family. She's filthy. The Duchess rushed forward and grabbed Conrad by the shoulder. Conrad! Olivia shrank back, her body trembling violently. Is he upset because I came here? It's all because of me. That's why Essela cried. 2 maids walked along the corridor. Madam hasn't gone out in a long time, has she? Is it because of that thing? The maid lowered her voice. That thing? Recently, there have been rumors that the Duke and Madam. The Duchess bent and kissed Essela on the cheek. Take good care of Essela. The Duchess walked toward the carriage. Jed tilted his head. Mama, why didn't you kiss Olivia too? Jed stared at Olivia, puzzled. Olivia calls you Mama too. If she's my sister, then Mama is her Mama too, right? Essela nodded vigorously beside him. That's right. Olivia lifted her face, her green eyes tightening. The Duchess reached out and patted Olivia on the head. Wait for me to come back. I'll think about that carefully then. While Mama is away, you all have to be good. Conrad stood on the steps, and Jed held Essela's hand. Have a safe trip. Olivia felt the lingering warmth on her head, and a smile slowly appeared on her lips. Conrad turned his face and stared at Olivia coldly. It was the last time the Duchess ever touched my head. After that, I never received her kiss. The day the Duchess went out, we had been so happy. Jed stood in the center of the hall, jumping around with a picture book raised high. Look, I wrote a fairy tale especially for you two. He pointed to a little purple figure on the page. This is Essela. She's the amethyst princess. Jed flipped the page. The girl in the drawing wore a green dress. This is Olivia, the emerald princess with shining green eyes. Jed held up the picture book to show the whole family together. The princes and princesses of the Jewel Kingdom lived happily ever after with the Topaz Queen. So, pretty good storytelling from your brother, right? Olivia knelt on the floor, tears spilling down her cheeks and soaking her clothes. Jed panicked, tossing the book aside and hurrying over. What's wrong? Why are you crying all of a sudden? Essela crawled over to Olivia. Sister, don't cry. Jed looked at Essela, who had burst into tears too, and flailed helplessly. Essela, why are you crying too? If sister cries, I'll be sad too. Jed pulled something from his pocket. Olivia, this is for you, so don't cry anymore. Olivia looked at the brother and sister beside her. I wasn't alone anymore. The thought that I had gained a family was shattered in less than a day. Thunder roared. Conrad stood by the window, looking down at the girl collapsed on the floor. This is all because of you. Lightning ripped through the darkness, illuminating the picture book scattered across the floor. If only you had never come. If only you didn't exist. Conrad burst out in a shout, tears pouring from his eyes. It's all because of you, that mother. Olivia sat limp on the cold floor, her green eyes contracting violently as she stared at Conrad in his frenzy. Outside, the storm raged, lightning tearing through the night sky. The wreckage of a carriage lay overturned in the muddy wilderness. The Duchess's shawl had fallen into the grass, soaked through by rain. Deathly silence surrounded it. Rain battered the windows. Pillars cast long shadows through the hall as guests whispered among themselves. I heard she was on her way to seek a divorce. What a tragedy. The carriage overturned while she was heading back to her family home. She must have gone for the children's sake. Essela raised her face, tears sliding down her cheeks. Where's Mama? Essela looked around and tugged at Olivia's sleeve. Mama, sister, something's wrong. Mama isn't coming back. I want Mama. The maids rushed about the bedroom. Bring a wet towel. Has the doctor arrived yet? Essela lay on the bed, sweat on her brow, eyes tightly shut. Mama. Olivia stood beside the bed, looking down at her unconscious sister, her face pale. Essela slowly opened her eyes, tears welling up. Sister, is Mama not coming back? Olivia took Essela's hand. I am sorry. Heavy footsteps approached. The bedroom door was flung open. The Duke stood at the entrance, his face sunk in shadow, tears streaking his cheeks, his eyes trembling in the dark. Olivia looked up, her green eyes shrinking as she stared at the looming figure. The Duke suddenly reached out and seized her wrist. He dragged her toward the door. Let go of me. Essela is sick. Sister. Essela struggled on the bed. Sister. Olivia was thrown into the corridor, her body slamming into the wall with a heavy thud. She snapped her head up. Let me go. Let me stay with Essela. How dare you? The Duke looked down at her, his face twisted in shadow. Do not use that filthy mouth of yours to speak my daughter's name. Olivia stood frozen, staring at the man before her. The Duke bent down closer, his voice echoing through the corridor. If Hazel had not run into you in that hallway that day, Olivia's pupils trembled. Her breathing stopped. The Duke clenched his teeth. Hazel would never have learned the truth. In the end, it was your wretched existence that destroyed my family. It killed Hazel. Olivia sat collapsed on the floor, staring at the Duke's retreating back. Tears pooled in her eyes. The Duke pushed open the bedroom door and sat at the bedside. Papa, what happened to sister? Essela, don't cry. Olivia knelt outside the door, both hands on the floor. Don't let that misfortune infect Essela too. Was it really because of me? Did everything become like this because I came here? Hazel smiled in her memory. You did nothing wrong, child. Olivia knelt in the darkness, tears dripping onto the floor, shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. A voice called from far away. Mississippi Miss. Olivia hurriedly drew back her gaze and forced her ragged breathing to calm. Sally stood at the door. What are you thinking about? Nothing. Dinner is ready. You'll come down right away, won't you? Candles flickered along both sides of a long table. Essela set down her utensils. Brother, I've finished everything. Conrad sat at the head of the table and turned toward her. You've only eaten half. I really did finish. When we're preparing for a debutante ball, should we be eating this much? Conrad pulled a letter from his pocket. A letter came from Jed at dawn. Though from the look of you, you're not interested. Essela jolted upright with a cry. She stabbed a chunk of meat and stuffed it into her mouth. Brother, today's steak tastes amazing. Conrad leaned back, smiling. All right, I'll give it to you. Essela set down her utensils and puffed out her cheeks. Honestly, brother, you're the worst. Do you know how long we've been waiting for news from Brother Jed? She turned toward the other side of the table. Right, sister. Olivia paused with her knife and fork. Brother Jed, I hope he's safe. A year ago, Jed had volunteered for the army and gone to the battlefield of Haypidi. Since then, he had vanished at the southern border. Other knights who went with him returned one after another, promoted, ennobled, or retiring to peaceful lives. Only Jed sent back a mere handful of letters. Olivia looked at Conrad and spoke softly. Brother, may I go get my letter too? Conrad lowered his eyes. HM, do you even have anyone who would write to you? Olivia froze in her seat, her green eyes widening slightly. What? Conrad lifted his teacup, the corners of his mouth curling. So, it seems there wasn't anything for you today either. You must be very busy. Silence fell over the dining room. Essela abruptly clapped her hands, breaking the silence. Sister, tell me more about your society debut. Your first appearance was absolutely flawless. Olivia lowered her eyes. A flawless ball? The memory returned in the glow of the lights. Crystal chandeliers shone above, and red carpets covered the hall. Leopold, dressed in formal wear, escorted Olivia through the crowd. Leopold gazed ahead, his blue eyes without the slightest ripple. Olivia's cheeks had flushed then. I once believed that would be a perfect day. To lose weight, I had endured hunger for days on end. My fingertips brushed the edge of my corset, and my ribs ached faintly. But that was the price of transformation. Olivia, dressed in ceremonial attire, her hair exquisitely arranged. Everything seemed to finally be falling into place. Olivia stood in the center of the hall, taking in the dazzling lights. Leopold's first waltz was about to begin. Leopold released her arm and turned away. He stopped in front of another woman, lifted her hand, and bowed over it. May I have this dance? Olivia stood frozen, staring at their retreating figures. The light faded from her green eyes, and her face turned pale. Whispers rose from every direction. How pitiful. Olivia clenched her skirt, her fingertips digging into the fabric. I knew it all along. Leopold was unwilling. A marriage alliance between the crown prince and a family of the imperial faction would always make people uneasy. So this was his way of dancing with another woman instead of Olivia. The nobles whispered behind their fans. It seems the crown prince and the princess don't get along. The noble faction can finally breathe easy. Laughter spread across the red carpet. Olivia pressed both hands tightly to her chest. Please. Conrad raised his glass and chatted with the nobles beside him, a faint smile at his lips. His gaze never once shifted back. Anyone at all. Please, just speak to me. I once prayed so desperately for that. Olivia stood in the distance, clutching her skirt so hard her hands trembled. Don't make a fool of yourself, Olivia. Smile. You have to smile. Olivia. Olivia suddenly looked up, her green eyes shaking. Conrad sat by the dining table with his arms folded. He says he's busy, so there's nothing we can do, Essela. I'll introduce you to a suitable lady to accompany you. Essela pushed back her chair and stood, the legs scraping harshly against the floor. Olivia. Conrad leaned in. I told you to stay away from Essela. Olivia lifted her head, her green eyes trembling, sweat sliding down her cheek. Conrad pressed a hand to his forehead. Are you planning to drag Essela down to your level too? I've warned you again and again. You're not one of the Madeleines. You're just a dependent. Conrad turned his face aside, his pale violet eyes icy. Get out. Olivia rose and walked toward the door. Have a pleasant day, brother. Olivia was the disaster that barged into this household. Because of that child, the family had been torn apart. Because of that child, mother died. Conrad stared ahead coldly. Even tearing her to pieces wouldn't calm my anger. She had to go to the Imperial Palace in Essela's place under the name of Madeline. That half-baked Madeline. Someone with neither the right nor the worth to be loved. A letter lay spread across the table. The purple wax seal had already been broken. Victory is certain. I will return as soon as possible. Please take care of father and Essela. Edwin threw on a red cloak. His metal armor reflected a cold gleam under the light. He strode down the corridor, his heavy boots thudding against the red carpet. Edwin stopped and rested a hand on the weapon at his waist, his fingertips brushing over the cold metal. Finally, Edwin's red eyes flickered in the shadows. The cross pendant on his chest caught the light. The Emperor sat high above, watching the man below with a curve to his lips. Edwin closed his eyes. I pay my respects to the son of the Empire. The Emperor looked down over the great hall, fingertips tapping the armrest. I heard the Archduke was always at the very front in this war as well. As expected of Wakand, Edwin bowed his head. You flatter me, your majesty. The Emperor stared at the man below. The Archduke of Wakand. It had taken a full 10 years to tame this young man. He had once been arrogant. The Emperor lifted his chin, but now he was nothing more than the Emperor's dog. The Archduke will soon officially succeed to the title. We should hold a grand victory banquet. That reminds me, you must be over 20 now. You should marry to secure your line of succession. Edwin turned his face slightly, his red eyes calm and unreadable. I have no such plans at the moment. The Emperor spread his hands with a chuckle. Then hear me out, just this once. In fact, the white crystal mine now belongs to the princess. Edwin sharply lifted his gaze, his red eyes narrowing, his look turning razor sharp. Snowflakes fell along the edge of the stone castle. It was the last legacy of the former Archduchess, the white crystal mine, a mine granted as compensation to the missing Archduke and the only collar that could bind him. The Emperor leaned back on his throne, fingertips brushing his chin. If you marry the princess, that man would be easier to control. If you marry, you can inspect the mine without royal approval, and the mine will remain forever under the imperial family's name. The Emperor's lips curled upward, revealing even teeth. If you insist on having that mine, Wakand, then you will dance forever in the palm of my hand. The Emperor threw back his head and laughed, the sound echoing through the Grand Hall. Forever. Edwin stared ahead, his red eyes unreadable. Newsboys ran through the streets, waving newspapers in their hands and shouting, "Extra! The Archduke of Wakand has returned in triumph." Olivia sat at her desk, her silver white hair falling over her shoulders. Her fingers brushed the necklace at her throat. Does something this splendid really suit me? What? His Highness the Crown Prince personally asked you out? Olivia turned around. I'm only going out for a little while. Essela's eyes widened. That's wonderful, Olivia. Essela looked at Olivia. You're not planning to go on your date dressed like that, are you? Olivia lowered her eyes to her gown. Is something strange about it? Essela cupped her cheek. You should change. Sister looks good in anything, but bright colors suit you better than something this dark. Sally nodded repeatedly. That's right. A bright dress would make you look even prettier. Essela took Olivia's hand. There's no time now, but later, let's go buy a new dress together. Olivia smiled, a trace of warmth passing through her green eyes. Do you really think that outfit suits her? To be honest, princess, she's not exactly the cheerful type. Then how about this? Olivia pressed a hand to her chest, her green eyes tightening slightly. Essela, this is so sudden. Essela pushed Olivia gently by the shoulders, her purple eyes crescent-shaped with delight. It's beautiful, just as I thought. Hurry and go. I told you bright colors would look good on sister, too. Essela clenched both fists and cheered in place. Have a good date. When you get back, you have to tell me everything. This is my first date outside the Imperial Palace. I hope His Highness the Crown Prince will have a good impression of me, too. The wooden door opened, and a little brass bell on it chimed crisply. Olivia turned her face. Light from outside reflected in her green eyes. Leopold stood amid the shadows of flowers, his short golden hair neatly parted, his blue eyes deep and fixed ahead. Olivia lifted her skirt and curtsied. Greetings to the Empire's little Sunday. Leopold said nothing. Olivia, The Madeline Imperial faction had forced their way in and pushed the Madeline family's mixed-blood daughter onto the Crown Prince as his partner. How dare they pair a girl of such low birth with the Crown Prince of the Empire? The steward adjusted his glasses. At the very least, today, Your Highness must accompany Miss Olivia. Even if she is mixed blood, she is still a member of the Madeline family. Leopold sat in a high-back chair, his legs crossed, blue eyes cold. Because I am mixed blood, I can never become His Highness's true fiancée. To be honest, this woman. Olivia lowered her head slightly, a smile at the corner of her lips, the necklace at her collarbone glittering. She is far too easy to deal with. Annoying. Leopold narrowed his blue eyes. You're always so punctual. Every time. It makes it look as though I'm the one who's late. Olivia sat by the long table, her green eyes full of confusion. That wasn't my intention. She widened her eyes, startled. I only wanted to see Your Highness as soon as possible. Leopold curled his lips, a teasing glint in his blue eyes. It was just a joke. You're too innocent. Olivia sat opposite him. Her silver-white hair spilled over her green dress, her hands clasped tightly together. Just a joke? Leopold lifted his teacup, a servant bent at the waist. Your Highness, what do you require? We're missing something important. Go fetch some fig jam. Right now. Olivia tilted her head slightly, her green eyes puzzled. Fig jam? Leopold lifted his chin, his short golden hair sharply outlined in the light and shadow, his blue eyes narrowing. I'm sure, miss. Must like figs. Maria, Ethel liked them too. Leopold folded his arms, his gaze sharp beneath his golden hair as he watched for her reaction. He rested his fingertips against his lips, a cold light in his blue eyes. A smile tugged at his lips. Olivia stiffened in her seat, her green eyes shrinking violently. This was deliberate cruelty. What reaction is he waiting for from me? He isn't always dependable, but he used to always be gentle. 11 years earlier, at Leopold's birthday banquet. So you're the Madeline family's illegitimate daughter? I heard the Duchess died because of her. Look at her green eyes. She's not even legitimate. Why is she here? Olivia lowered her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. What should I do? I can't say a word. I'm so scared. I want to run away. Leopold reached out a hand. You're Olivia Madeline, right? That's a beautiful name. Olivia raised her head, her green eyes reflecting the smiling face of a young boy. From the moment we first met, I was destined to fall in love. My fiancé, every moment, was my shining salvation. Olivia sat in the high-back chair, her green eyes lowered. I like fig jam. That was the only thing I could say. Leopold turned his head, his golden hair shadowing half his face, mockery in his blue eyes. Now that I think about it carefully, perhaps that person wasn't you after all, Olivia. Olivia froze, her green eyes trembling. Leopold stood up. My fiancé seems tired. We'll stop here for today. Go back and rest. So this had been Leopold's intention all along. He was denying my very existence. Olivia dipped slightly, a stiff smile on her lips. As always, Your Highness is so kind. Leopold stood still, his blue eyes contracting. What did you say? Olivia lifted her skirt and bowed. Thank you for making time to see me despite your busy schedule. Even if you were unwilling, that kindness now belongs to someone else. This is the last shred of my pride. Olivia straightened, both hands folded before her. However, you won't need to send bouquets anymore. Leopold stood frozen, his blue eyes trembling. Leopold suddenly laughed, a sharp meaning in his blue eyes. Bouquets? Are you expecting me to beg you? If you want that sort of thing, then learn to wait like a proper lady. Olivia's green eyes widened and shook. Leopold stepped forward, his black boots thudding over the checkered floor. And by the way, didn't I tell you? Bright colors really don't suit you at all. He leaned close, meaning glinting in his blue eyes. Leopold let go, turned, shoved open the heavy wooden door, and strode out, leaving the creak of the hinges behind. Olivia stood alone in the empty hall. So those flowers really hadn't been from him. Those expensive gifts, the bouquets filling her room, the letters full of comfort, every one of them had been lies. Lies. Every last bit of it had been a lie. Olivia gripped her skirt hard enough for her knuckles to turn white. Don't cry like a fool, Olivia Madeline. Right now, you have to stay calm. Who would dare toy with someone from the Madeline family? First, I need to figure out what's going on. Olivia turned and walked toward the door, her silver white hair swaying with emotion. Sally wouldn't be back until 4. In the meantime, she wasn't here, and even the coachman had been dismissed. For a while, no one would return. What should I do? Edwin, wearing a dark cloak, his black hair hidden beneath a hat, stared ahead with red eyes and suddenly stopped. Edwin lifted the brim of his hat, the corners of his mouth rising, his red eyes gleaming. Miss, what brings you here? Olivia turned her face, silver strands brushing her neck. Archduke. Edwin froze where he stood. What wind blew you here? Olivia's fingers trembled lightly in her pale skirt. Why do I always run into this strange man when I'm at my most miserable? He always makes me feel like I'm someone special, with that unguarded smile of his. And yet he's so dangerous. If we meet again, I'll give you a precious gift. Olivia lowered her eyes. Your thought alone is enough. You said you'd give me a gift. Does that offer still stand? Of course, my lady. What would you like me to do for you? Olivia sat on the cushioned seat of the carriage, her hands clasped tightly on her knees. To ask for a ride from a man who was nearly a stranger. I must be crazy. This impulsive behavior is nothing like me. But being near this man makes me feel a strange sense of safety. Why? Edwin stretched out a hand, holding a gift box decorated with rare white flowers. Here, take it. Inside, resting among the white blossoms, was a pair of gloves. Silk, shimmering softly, set with green gemstones. Gloves? The Empire had never seen such a design. Edwin leaned back against the carriage cushion. Well, do you believe now that I didn't just ignore what you said? If you ask, I have all sorts of treasures. Olivia lowered her gaze to her hands. Is this really a gift for me? She suddenly looked up, her green eyes full of confusion. You could tell my size just by looking? Olivia raised her right hand and spread her fingers before her eyes. The white silk clung to her skin perfectly. Edwin sat opposite her, his red eyes narrowing beneath his black hair, a faint smile at his lips. Olivia gave a small start. Has he been watching me that closely all this time? A white palace stood at the end of the green lawns. The fountain rose and fell in the center of the courtyard. Olivia looked at the man before her. I never asked his name. Edwin took her hand, a nearly invisible curve at his lips. Olivia lowered her eyes and softly said her own name. Olivia Madeline. That's my name. Edwin lowered his head to look at her. Olivia, that's a beautiful name. Olivia clenched the dark green skirt in her fist. He didn't seem to care about my surname at all, even though he knew I was a Madeline. Olivia raised her head toward the face hidden beneath the winter hat. If we meet again, then will you tell me your name? Edwin stopped. Ah, that. He turned his face away from those green eyes. I'm afraid I still can't say. Not yet. Please don't misunderstand. But today I must leave first. Why was I so certain that this man really would wait until next time? He reached out and held her fingertips. Next time we meet, I will definitely tell you my name, along with the most precious gift. Olivia looked down at her hand. For noble ladies like us, there really aren't many things that can be called precious gifts. If that's the case, perhaps he means some kind of object. For example, a sword forged from legendary metal and gemstones. Olivia blinked in quiet confusion. A sword? Edwin closed his eyes, the corners of his lips lifting. I'll look forward to that day. The man sitting at the round table studied the unexpected visitor across from him. Why has this young lady come here? Olivia raised a white porcelain teacup, her fingertip lightly brushing the rim. So he didn't get to see His Highness the Crown Prince after all? The man broke the silence. Miss, what wind blew you here? Olivia turned her face. I've just returned from His Highness the Crown Prince. Olivia lifted the teacup and took a sip of black tea. I only needed to confirm something. Those gifts used in place of His Highness attending the Wednesday meetings himself, were they sent by you? The man lowered his head slightly. Yes, my lady. Olivia set the teacup down, the base striking the saucer with a crisp sound. But His Highness himself seems to know nothing about them. Cold sweat slid down the man's face as he sat frozen in place. Olivia looked directly into his eyes, something sharp in her gaze. Could it be that your attendants dared to mock me? The man abruptly straightened his back, both hands pressing hard onto his knees. Absolutely not, my lady. There was never any intention of mocking you. Olivia leaned forward, fixing him with her stare. Then that card. Was it from you? The man widened his eyes, cold sweat trailing past his temples. Which card do you mean? Olivia lifted her chin slightly. Her green eyes contracted sharply, and a faint curve pulled at her lips as she let out a short, cold laugh. So the Chief Chamberlain knows nothing. Among the gifts sent in His Highness's name, someone slipped in a card with a forged signature. The man's face went white, his lips parted in horror. The flowers and gifts themselves don't matter. If they had comforted me, I would have accepted them. But that wasn't merely a card. The handwriting was clear. These flowers mark my new beginning. I look forward to seeing you next Monday. It was a trap. Olivia closed her eyes. Recently, your youngest son was appointed as an interim attendant at Taya's palace. You should know very well what that means. Taya's palace gleamed in the sunlight. It was the palace traditionally managed by the crown princess and where the future empress would reside. And now, Olivia had authority over it. Olivia turned her head and looked at the terrified man. I may not yet be the official crown princess, and I may not have the right to order you directly. But inside that palace, it's a different story. The man sucked in a breath, his pupils trembling with overwhelming fear. Olivia rose to her feet. If someone dares impersonate an attendant and insult a member of the Madeline family, am I supposed to simply ignore it? The man's knees buckled. And no, my lady, please spare him this once. I will certainly find the person behind this. Olivia sat in the armchair, her hands folded atop her knees. How fortunate. He had always been easy to handle. If not for him, things would never have gone this smoothly. Just as expected, mentioning his youngest son had provoked a strong reaction. Is this what they call a father? Are children really that precious to them? My father. Olivia fell silent. Duke Madeline. The Duke pressed a hand to his chest and bowed slightly. I salute the moon of the Empire. My greetings to Her Majesty the Empress. The Empress approached slowly, her red hair striking in the sunlight. Welcome, Duke. The Duke stared ahead. I heard you wish to discuss something with me. The Empress sat on a red velvet couch. You seem to be a straightforward man, so I'll speak plainly. About Olivia, that lovely girl. I've heard that on every agreed day, she spends time alone with the Crown Prince. The Duke's face tightened. It was nothing serious. I simply wished to soothe her disappointment, so I had the chief attendant send her a gift. But it seems some lady-in-waiting took it upon herself to add a few extra comforting words. Clearly, Olivia was very displeased and made a great fuss over it. One of the Empress's eyes glinted gold in the shadows. Duke, I do not want trivial matters like this to become a reason for me to stop receiving Olivia. A dangerous smile curved her lips. Of course, if something unfortunate were to happen, one of your other daughters could take her place. The Duke suddenly looked up, his pupils shrinking in shock. The Empress looked down at her nails. Duke, think carefully before you act. He slowly closed his eyes. No matter what others say, we are always on the same side, are we not? Duke Madeline pushed open the heavy wooden doors. His leather shoes clicked crisply over the polished marble. Countess Chess knelt before the Empress, clutching her skirt tightly. Your Majesty, this is a trap. Please be discerning. The Duke stopped, his violet eyes cold with meaning, and let out a low snort. Sunset dyed the palace walls red. Olivia stood on the terrace. So he really did say that Countess Chess was the culprit. My lady, Her Majesty the Empress has already ordered Countess Chess to leave the palace. Olivia lowered her eyes. Countess Chess was one of the Empress's people, just as always. He cuts off his own tail to survive, pretending everything is over. Don't feel guilty, Olivia. You did the right thing. She insulted the entire Madeline family. Your retaliation was only natural. Could it be that even father will be angry for my sake too? The heavy doors opened with a harsh scraping sound. Sally ran in from the end of the corridor. My lady, why are you only just back? The Duke has been looking for you everywhere. Olivia's green eyes widened as she froze. Father is looking for me? In the 14 years since entering the Madeline family, she had never once been permitted to enter her father's audience room. Olivia stared at the tightly shut wooden doors. Why now of all times? She clenched her skirt tightly. Don't be afraid. Perhaps he heard what happened at the palace. Perhaps he's angry for my sake. That must be why. The Duke sat with his hands folded beneath his chin, his face obscured by shadow. Crown Princess. Olivia held her breath. You are to become Crown Princess. The Duke stared at his daughter. I asked of you only one thing, and even that small thing you couldn't manage. Look at what this has turned into. Olivia stood frozen. Father, what do you mean? The Duke laughed coldly. I heard the Empress sent gifts to comfort you, and over a mere card, you went and threatened the palace attendants. Absurd. Is that how a future Crown Princess ought to behave? Olivia stepped forward half a pace, hurrying to explain. Father, you've misunderstood. It wasn't an ordinary card. Someone impersonated the Crown Prince to humiliate me. That was an insult to the Madeline family. The Duke turned his face aside, his gaze cold. On what grounds? Olivia froze. What? The Duke sat behind his desk, looking down at his daughter below the steps. Why should that be considered an insult to the family, Olivia? Olivia lowered her head, staring at the play of light across the floor tiles. What? The Duke raised his voice. Did you not hear me? I asked whether mocking you is the same as insulting the Madeline family. Olivia stood in the middle of the empty room, her back rigid. She looked up, pressing her right hand to her chest. I'm also a member of the Madeline family. Father. The Duke watched her silently, his expression unmoved. Olivia turned her face aside. I always thought Father looked down on me because I simply hadn't done well enough. The Duke sat high above, hands braced beneath his chin. Even if he neglected me, he still took me in when I had nowhere else to go. He gave me silk gowns and fine food. He even let me sit beside Leopold. That was the family's most precious place. Most importantly, he gave me a new home, or at least I once believed that. The Duke tilted his head slightly. If you insist on calling yourself a member of the Madeline family, his eyes were ice cold, then prove it to me. The Duke looked down at his daughter beneath the steps. Conduct yourself like a member of this house. Mind your words and actions. Do not let filthy rumors cling to you. Without my permission, do not approach Ursula again. Don't infect her with your misfortune, and do not drag her into Madeline again. At that name, Olivia clenched her skirt so hard her knuckles went white. No, I didn't do anything. The Duke let out a short, mocking laugh. If you did nothing, then why do the rumors still follow you like a shadow? And what did you do today in the Crown Prince's palace? Olivia straightened her back. Her father's gaze was fixed on her. That was Taya's palace under my authority. Everything I did was to protect Madeline. The Duke looked away and uttered a single word. Get out. Olivia stood still, her right hand pressed tightly to her chest, staring at the man she called father. Then she turned and left, the hem of her skirt sweeping over the cold tiles. Olivia stopped in the corridor and looked at the family portrait on the wall. The Duke stood in the painting, surrounded by the Duchess and the children. It was a Madeline family without her. Olivia let out a small laugh. Huh. Olivia walked alone down the corridor, her hands clasped tightly at her chest, fingertips digging into the fabric as she tried to steady her ragged breathing. I hope I can be lucky enough to see you again. Edwin leaned close. Olivia, what a beautiful name. How ridiculous. Olivia Madeline was thinking of a man she had barely met, seeking comfort in that thought. Even if it were only a single you did well, or you worked hard. I had never dared to hope for such things, but Olivia bent over, covering her face with both hands as a broken sob escaped her throat. I only wish that, just once I could hear someone say, this is not your fault. The next night, the Imperial Banquet Hall blazed with light as the victory celebration began. Nobles crossed back and forth over the marble floor. Olivia, dressed in red, stood alone in the center of the hall. The whispers around her surged like a tide. The color of her dress is almost the same as the Crown Prince's. She looks like his dance partner. Two noble women whispered to each other. Then why is she standing there alone? Is she trying to announce to everyone that Escalus stole the crown prince from her? Is she using those green eyes to win sympathy? How pitiful. I should have given that dress to Escala in the first place. She brought this on herself. Olivia remained expressionless. It's all right, Olivia, but I don't see today's guest of honor. Where are they? An attendant leaned toward the emperor and lowered his voice. Well, what? They still haven't arrived? What on earth are they doing? The master of ceremonies announced loudly. His Grace Edwin Lowell Wakand, Archduke of Wakand, entering with his retinue, including the Imperial Knights and the Knights of Wakand. A line of knights in uniform passed through the hall, the swords at their waists swaying with each step, metal clinking sharply. Olivia searched among them. Jed should be in there too. Where is he? She held her breath, her gaze passing over one unfamiliar face after another. Olivia's eyes flew wide, her pupils trembling. Her gaze locked on the front of the procession. Edwin. Edwin slowly entered the hall, his black hair neatly falling over his forehead. He wore a dark blue military dress uniform, the epaulets glittering under the lights. Edwin stopped and bowed slightly. I salute the son of the Empire. He lifted his head, his red eyes cold and deep as he looked straight at the Emperor on the high seat. Edwin Lowell Wakand greets your majesty. Edwin. He bowed to the Emperor, his right hand gripping the hilt at his waist. Olivia stood in the distance, staring at his back. Olivia froze where she stood, her breathing stopping for an instant. That man. The Emperor spread his arms and looked down at the kneeling commander. My proud knight, you finally arrived. This banquet was prepared for you. Why were you delayed so long? Edwin lowered his eyes and answered softly. My deepest apologies. At an inspection ceremony personally presided over by your majesty, ordinary arms would not do. Edwin held the long sword horizontally in both hands. This is Wykand's heirloom. I have brought Ellerud. The blade reflected a cold light. A stir erupted from the crowd. That's the missing Lowell royal sword, lost for 30 years. They say his majesty has always wanted it. The Wakand family would sooner offer up the white crystal mine than display that sword. The emperor burst into loud laughter that echoed over the banquet hall. I had worried that the empire's greatest knight had never sworn an oath of honor to any lady. So the archduke is finally willing to make a knight's vow. Excellent. The emperor looked down at the figure standing at the end of the red carpet. Since the archduke would today receive a fitting partner in the emperor's name and according to Noni's wish, Wakand would ultimately belong to me. Edwin strode forward, his boots sounding on the red carpet. The emperor gave his final command. Now, archduke, offer your vow. Edwin closed his eyes with a smile, not hesitating for even a moment. He passed right by the elaborately dressed princess. Under everyone's gaze, his boots crossed the red carpet and stopped before Olivia. Edwin dropped to one knee, holding the long sword in both hands. Olivia, Miss Olivia Madeline, it is finally my honor to speak your name. This is a sword unlike any other in the world. I, Edwin Lowell Wakand, offer you my sword in the name of a knight, my lady. Olivia looked down at him. Please. The man in her memory had once spoken softly. Only something precious enough would make you accept it. For example, a one-of-a-kind sword forged from sacred steel and gemstones. Edwin looked up at Olivia. Will you grant me this honor and allow me to become your sword? Olivia stood frozen. That tone again, the tone that said he would accept whatever decision I made. Why does this man treat me this way? Olivia's lips trembled. I'm very sorry, Archduke. I must refuse your vow. A hand shot out from the side and gripped her shoulder tightly. Olivia let out a startled cry. Leopold pulled her into his arms by the shoulder. This lady is my fiancée. If an unmarried archduke swears himself to her, won't that bring scandal upon my fiancée? This is a vow permitted by his majesty. Edwin's lips curved upward. If it is offered to Miss Olivia Madeline, how could there be scandal? Unless you mean to defy his majesty's will? Leopold tightened his arm. Once the vow is accepted, we must dance the first dance together. Don't you think that is disrespectful to the man escorting the lady? Edwin let out a soft laugh. I see. Since your highness arrived with another woman, I assumed this lady had come alone. It seems I was mistaken. Edwin turned his head, his gaze sweeping toward Maria in the distance. Others might think I'm not making a vow, but proposing to this lady instead. Leopold clenched his jaw, veins rising at his temple as he glared at the man before him. Archduke, the princess hurried over. Brother, calm yourself. Rather than that, shouldn't you first point out this lady's attire? The princess smiled faintly, her gaze sweeping over Olivia. Olivia, do you not know what etiquette a lady should observe when accepting a knight's vow? The first knight's vow in history was offered by Emperor Silian Franz, the empire's founding emperor, to Empress Alika Franz. That was in the age of Emperor Franz and the Empress, a time of upheaval and war. The Empress wore a white dress and prayed for the Emperor's safe return. When the smoke of battle cleared, the dress had been stained red with blood, while only her gloves remained white. Wearing that blood-soaked gown, she offered the flowers from the altar to the Emperor. Olivia touched her red dress. By ancient custom, there could be no more perfect recreation than this attire. Thank you for the guidance, Your Highness the Crown Prince, and Your Highness the Princess. Thanks to you, I may receive this vow with proper etiquette. Leopold froze, his pupils contracting as he stared at the woman in the red dress before him. The princess stood behind him, the bouquet in her hand, trembling slightly. A lady-in-waiting gasped behind her hand. But those flowers. Olivia turned her head, her hair sliding with emotion. I would not dare offer withered flowers from a past life to the noble Archduke. Her long hair swayed. So I offer this jewel as my new symbol. Olivia closed her eyes, a faint smile on her lips. I, Olivia Madeline, gladly accept the Archduke's honor. Olivia extended her hand, her fingertips brushing the sword Edwin offered. Edwin raised his face, his pupils trembling slightly as he looked at the woman before him. Edwin stood, his boots thudding heavily on the red carpet. As he rose, he seemed to lose his balance and pitched forward straight into Olivia's arms, wrapping both arms tightly around her waist. Edwin buried his head in the hollow of her neck. Forgive me, my lady. I knelt too long, and my legs have gone numb. Olivia lowered her eyes, a smile touching her lips. I heard you were an excellent knight. I never imagined your legs would be more delicate than expected. Edwin turned his face, the tip of his nose brushing her hair. That's true. You always save fragile me, don't you? When I nearly fell, and when I got into trouble on the street, you saved me both times. Edwin stepped back half a pace and elegantly extended his right hand, palm upward. Since you have already saved me so many times, could you save me once more? Grant me the honor of dancing the first dance with you. Olivia tilted her head. Can someone whose legs are numb really dance right away? Olivia lifted her hand and set her fingertips in Edwin's palm. Edwin closed his hand around hers. I'm already feeling much better, but I should warn you, I'm not very good at dancing. I don't mind. Edwin pressed a hand to his chest, the corner of his lips lifting. Anything involving physical movement is my specialty, so this time, I can finally be of help to you. Olivia smiled, her eyes softening. Leopold stepped forward, his boots striking the stone with heavy sounds. Congratulations, Olivia. Her pupils shrank, and the smile faded from her face. Leopold stopped in front of them both. My fiancé has finally received the honor of the Empire's greatest knight. He looked down at Olivia, his gaze cold. So, Olivia, how does it feel to receive the first vow of your life? Whenever things slipped beyond his control, he wore that smile. It was Leopold's familiar signal, urging me to hurry and placate him. Olivia withdrew her gaze and no longer looked at Leopold. Edwin stood beside her, the line of his face severe under the lights. Olivia stepped forward and took Edwin's arm, her fingertips resting lightly on the dark blue uniform. Edwin lowered his eyes to her hand, something flickering in his gaze. Leopold stood in the shadows, staring at their retreating backs, his fingers gripping the sword hilt at his waist. How dare you? How dare you refuse me? You used to cling to me, desperate for even the slightest bit of my attention. But now you won't even look at me. Leopold, all around them, the noble's whispers echoed through the hall. Are you rejecting me? Edwin turned slightly. Your Highness, if you have no further business, step aside. I am about to dance the first dance with a lady who accepted my vow. Leopold's lips curved upward, but his gaze grew colder still. Since my fiancée has already accepted her first vow, Archduke, I think her first dance should be with me. Leopold extended his right hand, palm facing up. Livy, come with me. Olivia froze, her pupils trembling. That nickname. No one had called me that since Mother died. Leopold looked at her, his tone certain. You've always wanted to dance the first dance with me, haven't you? Olivia lifted her face and looked at Leopold. Such an arrogant posture. He was bestowing charity, as if granting some sort of favor. That tone made her sick. Her vision blurred as memory returned to the coming-of-age ball years ago. Leopold had spun another woman across the dance floor in his arms. I hadn't even been allowed to attend my own ball. I could only hide behind a pillar and watch as he gave the first dance that should have been mine to someone else. Olivia looked at Leopold, the corner of her lips lifting slightly. So the moment had finally come. Leopold kept his hand extended, a confident smile on his face, waiting for her hand to rest in his. Olivia's lips parted, her voice echoing in the hall. Your Highness, this banquet is to honor the war heroes. Therefore I will have the first dance with the Archduke. Olivia lifted her skirt and gave him a curtsy. Oh, by the way, Olivia looked directly at Leopold, her eyes filled with mockery. Your Highness, perhaps you should share this wonderful first dance with Miss Ethel. Leopold's jaw tightened. A vein throbbed at his temple as he watched Olivia turn and walk away, her hands at her sides. Got clenched into tight fists. Olivia lowered her gaze, her fingertips clutching the fabric over her chest. That was the first time I chose to believe Leopold. Was it a mistake? Edwin looked down at Olivia, gesturing to the sword in her hand. Isn't it heavy? It looks it. Shall I hold it for you for a while? Olivia stood frozen, looking up at Edwin. It's not heavy, but please take it. Edwin took the long sword and casually tossed it behind him. An attendant yelped and jumped, flailing to catch the heavy weapon. You can't just toss it like that. Edwin ignored the complaint and looked down at Olivia. Musicians drew their bows across violin strings, filling the hall with dance music. Edwin put his arm around Olivia's waist and led her to the dance floor. Why are you so nervous? You're trembling more now than when I swore my oath to you. But even more so, Olivia avoided his gaze, staring at the red carpet. Is there anything more terrifying than one's first dance? Edwin stopped, looking down at Olivia in his arms. Is this your first dance? Olivia only gave a slight nod in silence. Edwin leaned close to her ear, a small smile on his lips. What a coincidence. It's my first time, too. Olivia's head snapped up to meet his red eyes. That's just awful. Edwin squeezed her hand. Don't worry. I practiced a lot. I promise not to step on your feet. He spun her. Besides, in heels like yours, I wouldn't feel a thing even if you stepped on my toes. Olivia froze. What? Edwin looked into her eyes. Even if you crush my feet, I will never let go of your hand. Edwin held Olivia's waist, spinning her gracefully on the dance floor. Since this is my first time, you'll have to take responsibility for me to the very end. Olivia looked up at him. But you just said this was your first time dancing. Edwin's lips curved upward. As I've said, I'm good at anything involving physical coordination. Olivia followed his steps, her dress swirling in an arc. I didn't expect you to be so good. Edwin leaned closer to her face. What? Are you disappointed I'm better than you thought? Olivia averted her eyes. Not disappointed, just surprised. Olivia stole a glance at the man before her. Is this man really the rumored, cold-blooded murderer, the Archduke of Wakehand? He seems so carefree, even a bit playful. And Edwin suddenly led Olivia into a wide spin. Her silver hair flew through the air as their eyes met under the lights. Edwin leaned close to Olivia's ear and asked softly, "What are you so deep in thought about?" Olivia lowered her gaze, avoiding his intense stare. "I was just thinking about how I've just received a very precious gift." Edwin watched her profile, his lips curving into a smile. To see a gift so cherished. As the giver, I feel very gratified. Olivia suddenly lifted her head and looked straight into Edwin's red eyes. "I meant the sword called Alarat." The smile faded from Edwin's face. "That's really too bad." Olivia glanced around. In the shadows, the guests were whispering among themselves. All those malicious gazes were now focused on the two of us. Olivia Madeline, the green-eyed girl who always stayed hidden in the shadows of gossip. And now that Archduke had offered me a knight's oath. Olivia looked at Edwin, ripples stirring in her heart. Could all of this really not be a dream? From today on, every rumor would mention me. I had always kept my distance from Esla, so I wouldn't become a burden to anyone. And yet now, like a fool, I was smiling. Olivia looked at Edwin. "If you want, you could take it back." Edwin stopped dancing. "Take back what?" Olivia fell silent. Edwin lowered his head close to her face. "To be honest, I hadn't planned to swear an oath to you. When I came here, but I had my own plan." Olivia's shoulders trembled slightly. "It's okay, Olivia. No matter what he says next, don't show it." Edwin looked into Olivia's green eyes. "But just as I was about to hand the sword to you, a thought crossed my mind. I wanted to give you the most precious thing I have. This sword may be priceless, but it isn't the most precious." Olivia held her breath. "If that's the case, what choice do I have left?" Edwin bent down close to Olivia, his fingertips brushing over the back of her hand. "I had to offer myself to your highness as a gift." Olivia clutched the red fabric at her chest, her fingertips trembling slightly as her breathing quickened. How could he say something like that so easily? I've never felt anything like this before. Leopold blocked her path, his shadow falling over Olivia. "You look like you're having a good time." Olivia stopped and lifted her head to meet Leopold's blue eyes. "Yes, your highness." Leopold's expression turned grim in the silence, his cold gaze fixed on the woman before him. Olivia. Only then did Leopold curl his lips into a faint smile. "Are you enjoying yourself too, your highness?" Edwin looked toward the dance floor, his red eyes locking onto the distant figure. An attendant entered carrying the sword. "Your highness, I brought Alarat." "Why?" "The waltz is timed for partner changes." The attendant froze and made a confused sound. "What did you say? Isn't that when dancers are supposed to switch partners?" "Then what was that just now?" "You clearly said you were going to swear loyalty to the princess. You said that you would bow your head one more time for the Whitewater gold mine." Edwin looked back at the dance floor. "But why do they have to switch partners?" Edwin stared at the dance floor, his red eyes fixed on the distant figure. The attendant carrying the sword stepped in and asked in confusion, "Your highness, what about the mine? What exactly are you looking at right now?" Heavens, that whole plan has completely fallen apart. The plan to curry favor with the princess for the sake of the Whitewater gold mine. The attendant covered his forehead, looking troubled. The Archduke would never act without a strategy. "You still have another plan, right?" Leopold held Olivia as they moved stiffly across the dance floor. Olivia leaned against his shoulder. She caught the scent of cigars. Leopold stared into the distance, his voice devoid of warmth. "You should thank Maria. If she hadn't worked so hard to calm me down, I really would have lost my temper just now." Olivia lowered her gaze, a trace of a smile crossing her lips. "Of course." Leopold took Olivia into a turn in the middle of the dance floor. The hem of her red gown swayed with emotion, sweeping across the red carpet. Olivia kept staring at Leopold's shoulder. Her breathing became ragged, and a thin sheen of sweat formed at her temple. "The tempo is too fast. I can't keep up." Leopold tightened his grip and steadied Olivia's swaying body. "If you're clumsy, can't you at least pretend to be graceful?" Olivia lowered her head, letting her silvery white hair hide the side of her face. "This is my first dance with Leopold. It was once a moment I dreamed of, but this was nothing like I had imagined. I once dreamed of standing in the center of a splendid ballroom, the focus of everyone's attention. I dreamed of meeting his gaze and seeing him smile at me gently." Leopold looked down at her expressionlessly, his gaze cold. Sparse applause sounded through the hall. The guests stood in the shadows, watching as Leopold and Olivia stood facing one another, a distance between them. Olivia turned and walked away. Her red cape traced an arc through the air, her silvery white hair lifting in the wind. Leopold bent down beside Maria and smiled at her. Olivia watched from afar. Then she returned to the resting area and sat on a red velvet bench, her hands folded on her lap, her back perfectly straight, staring at the empty hall. "Congratulations on completing your first dance, Your Highness." Olivia turned her face slightly. Maria spread open her pink folding fan, covering half her face. Olivia looked at the blonde woman before her and softly spoke her name. "Miss Maria Ethel." Sitting on a red bench, Olivia inclined her body slightly in greeting. "Thank you for specially coming to congratulate me, miss. How considerate." Maria adjusted the fluffy pink skirt of her dress. "Of course, you are the Crown Prince's fiancée. Naturally, I should give you the highest attention." Maria suddenly leaned close, sniffed near Olivia's shoulder, and let out a small gasp. "Forgive me, Your Highness, but I smell something. Were you on the terrace just now?" Olivia lifted her right hand, pressing her fingertips to her lips. Her green eyes trembled in the shadows. "Why is she bringing up the terrace to me? That place rumored to be the secret haunt of lovers. Why bring up that place to me, of all people?" Maria touched her chin with one fingertip. "As you know, His Highness the Crown Prince always insists on smoking a very particular kind of cigar. But seeing him cough, I guess his lungs might be weak. Or perhaps he simply isn't used to the smell." Olivia sat there in silence, her silvery white hair falling over her red skirt, her hands folded on her lap without a word. Olivia looked at Maria's pale face, her glittering blue eyes, and that brilliant golden hair. Everything about her was beautiful, as if she had grown up surrounded by pure love. Maria leaned toward Olivia, tilting her head as she called softly, "Your Highness?" "She and I are completely different. His Highness the Crown Prince doesn't usually smoke in front of me either. You really are lucky, my lady. You must be very willful." Maria froze in place, her pupils shrinking in shock. Olivia turned her head slightly, a faint curve on her lips. "Do you want to become Leopold's mistress? In the Franz Empire, polygamy is not recognized." Olivia lowered her eyes, a cold glint flashing through her green pupils. "So the highest position you could ever attain would only be Countess Roart's." Maria's face turned pale, and her lips trembled. "For a young lady who wishes to become a royal mistress, there are only two paths. Either remain as you are and continue as a lady of society, or marry a man of suitable status and then, in secret, formally serve as his mistress." Olivia tilted her head slightly. "Countess Roarts has been dead for 30 years. So now, there just happens to be an opening." Maria shot to her feet, her pupils shaking with rage. "How can you say such things to me?" Olivia remained seated, looking up directly into Maria's eyes. "If you don't want to become a mistress, then why do you keep flaunting your relationship with the Crown Prince in front of me? Why boast about such things to his official fiancée? What exactly are you thinking, Maria?" Maria suddenly sucked in a sharp breath. Her eyes reddened almost instantly. Maria clenched her teeth. Tears welled in the corners of her eyes as she spun around and ran for the doors. Her disordered footsteps echoed through the corridor. Olivia sat alone on the bench, gazing in the direction Maria had gone, her expression unchanged. A group of noble ladies gathered around, bowing their heads toward the figure on the bench. "Your Highness." They crowded around Olivia, their voices rising over one another. "Your first and second dances were both so perfect. Even though you said it was your first time, your movements were really graceful." One brown-haired girl looked around. "But where did Miss Ethel go?" Olivia remained seated in silence. The noble girls clustered around her, chattering questions. "Please tell us, Your Highness, why was Miss Ethel so angry? Did you know the Archduke before this? Why hasn't His Highness the Crown Prince shown himself all evening?" Olivia stood up, the red hem of her gown sweeping the floor. "As you can see, a lot happened tonight. I'll be taking my leave first." Olivia walked down the long corridor, her heels clicking crisply against the marble. Essela's voice surfaced in her memory. "Big sister, bright colors would definitely look good on you. Borrow this and use it. When the ball is over, you have to tell me everything." Olivia stopped walking. "I still have to return the hairpin to Essela. It looks like she's already gone. I can't find her anywhere. The celebration banquet lasts an entire week. I should still have a chance to see her again." Olivia pushed open the heavy wooden door. "I didn't see Jed with the knights earlier either. If only I could talk to him. Where'd he go?" "Olivia." She suddenly turned and stared at the figure on the terrace. Jed, when did you get back? I've been waiting for you." Jed stood in the shadows, looking down at Olivia below. "What exactly is your relationship with that madman?" "I don't understand what you mean, Jed." Jed suddenly turned around. "At the banquet, the Archduke publicly smiled at you. Explain to me right now how something this absurd happened." Olivia raised her right hand, her fingertips suspended in midair. "After a year and a half apart, is this really the first thing you're going to say to me? Weren't you hurt in the war? Why did you never reply to my letters? Why did you send back all the supplies I sent you?" Jed raised a hand to his forehead. "That was just a false rumor, right? I knew it. Who would ever swear loyalty to someone like you? Especially that Archduke." Olivia cut him off, her voice echoing through the corridor. "It's true, Olivia. The Archduke really did swear to me. If you don't believe me, ask Conrad when he comes back. He saw it clearly." Jed's gray eyes flew open wide, trembling violently. "Do you even know what that means? You complete idiot." Olivia lowered her head in silence. A tear slipped down her cheek and fell soundlessly to the ground. Jed stood frozen, his outstretched right hand hanging in the air. "She's crying." Olivia raised her head, her green eyes calm again. "I'm an adult now. I completed my debut in society. I have the right to accept such an oath. Olivia stepped forward, her heels striking the stone floor with heavy sounds. Then why are you making that face? He watched Olivia approach and involuntarily took a step back. His right hand clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Olivia took another step forward. Why do you talk as if no one could ever swear loyalty to me? Jed clenched his teeth, making a faint grinding sound. His gaze fell on Olivia's hand. That glove, was it given to you by Archduke Hyperion? Don't tell me he really gave it to you. Yes. Jed's gray pupils contracted violently, and his breathing grew heavy. Did you two know each other before today? Olivia tilted her head slightly, her silvery white hair falling over her shoulder. Yes. Jed suddenly swung his arm and slammed his fist against his side. You complete fool. Once, long ago, there were two princesses, the Amethyst Princess and the Emerald Princess. They also had an excellent older brother. But later, Jed stood in the dim courtyard. Was it because of you? Did your mother die? Because of you? Olivia stopped before the enormous portrait, staring at the family that once had been. Jed, Lena hurried down the steps, her white heels crushing flower petals beneath them. Lena bit her thumb knuckle, her blue eyes narrowed with anger. Edwin, Lull of Wakand, how dare he humiliate me like this? Enough. A voice came from deep inside the hall. Lena stopped and turned toward the source. The Empress of the Franz Empire sat at the long table, her red dress rippling in the light. She set down her teacup with a clear clink. Show the manners befitting a princess. But mother, Lena jumped to her feet, her pale hair swaying sharply, her blue eyes widening in fury. Olivia Madeline, that girl dared to steal the opening dance, my brother, and even the Archduke. That place should have belonged to me alone. The Empress rose to her feet. Indeed, my princess, that place should rightfully have been yours. The Empress approached Lena and stroked her cheek with her right hand. You possess the noblest bloodline. You shine brighter than anyone. The Empress leaned to Lena's ear. You certainly know how to turn her into a puppet, and you surely know how to punish such insolence. Shall I make unreasonable demands of her again, like last time? Or send her to complete an impossible task? A cold light shone in Lena's blue eyes. The young lady of House Madeline is always begging me to assign her tasks, all to prove she deserves the position of crown princess. Perhaps right now she's clinging desperately to Duke Madeline's collar, humbly begging for even the most trivial errands. After all, to atone for the sin of causing the Duchess's death, whatever she does is only natural. What a pity. The only legitimate daughter of House Madeline still knows nothing of the truth and is even defending her sister. Lena stared at the wreckage on the floor, the corners of her lips curling upward. How pitiful, mother. The Empress watched the scene, her golden eyes narrowing slightly. A quill raced over parchment with a soft scratching sound. Miss Madeline cordially invites your presence and looks forward to your participation. A messy blot of ink stained the signature. Sunlight spilled over the fountain plaza, water droplets sparkling in the air as two noble women stopped in place, their hair stirring in the breeze. Oh my, your highness. One woman leaned in, her gaze falling to the necklace at Lena's throat. You look radiant today. Was that necklace a gift from Prince Wilton? Another clasped her hands together and leaned forward slightly. It suits you perfectly. Lena raised her right hand and touched the jewelry at her neck. Is that so? I'm glad to see everyone enjoying themselves. Except for one person, it seems. Because of your poor health, you missed the last tea party. Is this your first time attending a formal gathering? Are you nervous? Please don't be anxious. Lena stepped forward, the gold hem of her dress brushing across the grass. Her heels clicked crisply over the stone path as she approached step by step. Olivia stopped behind Ursula, the young lady of House Madeline. Lena tilted her head slightly, her gaze cold. Or do you think my tea party is beneath your standards? Sally raised her right fist, her knuckles tightening. Today, no matter what, I'll protect you, miss. Olivia turned her face slightly, her green eyes resting on Sally. That won't be necessary. Sally suddenly bent forward, her brown twin tails swaying as her right hand pressed her chest. I'm serious, miss. You may not have seen it, but after yesterday's oath ceremony ended, Sally flung her arms wide. Both the front and back gates of the manor were packed with reporters. Olivia closed her eyes, a faint smile on her lips. Miss, we've arrived at the jewelry shop. Hurry and go inside. Sally spread her arms to block the way and scolded loudly. Move aside. Don't block the road. Olivia stepped down from the carriage and stood behind Sally, looking at the empty street. Sally froze in place, both hands suspended in midair, her round brown eyes widening in confusion. What? Olivia opened her green eyes and looked calmly ahead. See? Didn't I tell you? So, then what did you come to the jewelry shop for? I was so busy stopping the reporters that I forgot to ask why you came out. Olivia turned her face slightly, amusement flickering in her green eyes. I'm going to return this piece of jewelry and exchange it for something more suitable. Don't you think that would be better? Sally stood there blankly. The brass bell above the shop door rang sharply. Olivia pushed the door open and entered, her hands folded in front of her, her green eyes sweeping over the store. Ma'am, please show me the finest jewelry you have. The jeweler stood behind the counter, both hands braced against the tabletop, staring at the scattered jewelry boxes. How is this possible? Not a single one catches the young lady's eye. She clenched her teeth, sweat beading on her forehead. I really ought to fire the fool in charge of imports. Olivia waved her hand. It's all right, ma'am. I'm just being rather picky today. Since I'm here, I'll look around a little more. She stopped, her eyes fixing on the back of the counter. A red gemstone set in the center of a ring lay quietly inside a velvet box. Edwin. Edwin stood behind Olivia, his black hair shadowing his forehead. Miss, does this piece catch your eye? It really is beautiful, but from the design. Isn't this a proposal ring? Edwin stepped forward, his black boots crossing the wooden floor until he stopped at Olivia's side. Since this ring belongs to you. A faint smile curved his lips. How do you know about this? Olivia froze, lips slightly parted. The jeweler looked at the man uncertainly. Miss, that person is... Olivia stepped in front of him. He's someone I know. It's all right. No need to worry. More importantly, ma'am, the tea has gone cold. Could I trouble you for another hot pot? The jeweler nodded repeatedly and turned toward the back room. Oh, of course, right away. Olivia lowered her gaze and pressed her right hand to her chest. What am I supposed to do now? If I keep accepting his help like this, am I only going to keep getting myself into more trouble? Olivia suddenly looked up, her green eyes narrowing. This is absurd. What are you thinking, Your Grace? Coming to a jewelry shop without even bringing guards? What if people start spreading rumors? Olivia's green eyes widened, her breathing uneven. She lifted her skirt with both hands and sank into a curtsy. Her straight, silvery white hair fell over her green dress. Please forgive my belated greeting. Olivia Madeline greets you, Your Grace. Edwin looked down at the curtsying girl, his expression stern beneath his black hair. That's unnecessary. Olivia held the curtsy, her silvery white hair draped over her green dress. It's basic etiquette. Edwin stepped toward her. I want to give a woman whose appointment I broke something that goes beyond etiquette. Don't you want that? If you'd like, I can simply call. Your name? Olivia straightened abruptly. Rather than that, what did you mean earlier? She pointed at the ring inside the counter. You said this ring belongs to me. What exactly does that mean? And this is clearly a proposal ring. Edwin took hold of the edges of his cloak, a smile playing on his lips. Exactly. I knew you would spot it at a glance. He turned slightly, revealing the splendid formal clothes beneath his cloak. It's a family heirloom. I left it in the shop until the right moment, so I could show it to you then. Olivia stood stunned before the counter. She stared at Edwin's back, her green eyes shaking violently. That can't be. Olivia gripped the fabric over her chest with her right hand, her straight, silvery white hair falling over her green dress. No, Olivia, don't flatter yourself. If he casually jokes like this, he has no idea who might fall into a mire because of it. Just yesterday, even the Emperor had considered marrying the princess to him. Edwin Lowell of Wakand was a war hero and a man of overwhelming wealth. What if that is exactly what I'm hoping for? Olivia froze, her green eyes widening in shock. To be with me? Edwin raised his chin slightly, his gaze sweeping to the side, red eyes gleaming in the shadows. Olivia held her breath, strands of hair trembling against her cheek. Her heart pounded heavily in her chest. Her lips parted, sweat slipping down from her temple. You should know that I'm the Crown Prince's fiancé. Edwin sat on the sofa, a smile beneath his black hair, his red eyes narrowing as he let out a soft laugh. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Olivia hurried toward him, anxiety filling her green eyes. Your Grace, are you feeling unwell? Edwin, leaning back in the chair, he looked up at the ceiling. I'm perfectly fine, except for my heart. Olivia froze, confusion filling her green eyes. What? As expected of the remaining daughter of the Franz Empire. I heard you dote very much on your eldest daughter, and now you're even personally looking after the second before her debut. You truly are too kind. Lena turned her head, a gentle light in her eyes and a faint smile on her lips. What are you saying? My sister looks good in anything. Lately, she's even been managing the duchy's budget and helping out at the Imperial Palace. She's an amazing sister. She had been talking nonstop a moment ago, but now she had suddenly gone quiet. Ursula turned slightly, her brown eyes looking toward Lena. Madam, regarding the details of the gathering you mentioned in the invitation. Ursula lowered her head, her purple eyes trembling faintly. I even snuck out without telling Father, just to hear about this. About last night's ball. My sister didn't tell me a single word. Lena lifted a finger to her chin. So, miss, you came all this way specifically to confirm the oath from last night? Ursula suddenly lifted her head, her round purple eyes wide. Yes, I'm so glad Her Highness said she would help me. I only heard that the Archduke made a vow to my sister. You and your sister seem very close. Sitting at the far end of the long table, Ursula looked ahead with wide purple eyes. Of course, she's my only sister. Heavens! Ursula's wide purple eyes trembled slightly. Whispers rose one after another. Heavens, she really does have green eyes, doesn't she? What is the Duke thinking, bringing someone like that home? Poor Miss Ursula. Imagine having to call someone like that her sister. Ursula lowered her head, avoiding their gaze, her purple eyes shaking. I'm not feeling well. I should leave first. Lena turned her face toward her. You're far too kind, miss. Did you inherit that disposition from your mother? Ursula's body stiffened, the light fading from her round, purple eyes. Lena leaned close beside Ursula. If it were me, I would never call that dancer's daughter my sister. That murderer who killed my mother. Didn't you know? Ursula froze, her purple eyes contracting in utter terror. My coming to see you is a secret from everyone else in your household, but I'll show you. Ursula, I'll show only you. A young Essela stood in the light and shadow, her hands clasped tightly at her chest, her round purple eyes wide and lips parted. Dark hand shadows closed in from both sides. This is the truth of your mother's death. The whole empire knows it. Tears slid from Essela's eyes, her purple pupils trembling violently. It was all because of that green-eyed girl. Sunlight shone over the grand stone building. By the way, Edwin sat indoors, leafing through a red-covered book. What wind blew you here? Olivia turned slightly, showing her profile. I came to choose a gift for your grace. Edwin suddenly lowered the book in his hand, his red eyes tightening slightly. A gift for me? Actually, the jeweled brooch I gave you yesterday belonged to my younger sister. Edwin lowered his head while seated on the sofa, his hands braced on his knees, shadows falling across his black hair. So, that you've come to ask for the gift back? Olivia raised her right hand and brushed her cheek. A gentle light shone in her eyes. That was what I intended to say, but I prepared another gift. Edwin turned his head away in a sulk. You should have prepared it properly from the start. But the situation at the time wasn't exactly ideal. Edwin lowered the red-covered book in his hand, his red eyes stern beneath his black hair. I wasn't trying to make things difficult for you. Edwin set his right hand on the edge of the book with a dull thud. As compensation, Olivia's green eyes widened. A seamstress. A female tailor pushed the door open and entered. Did you call for me? My respects to the great Archduke, she said. Edwin stood sideways. I trust someone as perceptive as he knows how to keep silent. I want her to try this dress on. The tailor pushed up her glasses and bowed. Yes, I'll prepare it right away. Olivia suddenly looked up, her straight, silvery white hair swaying with emotion, her green eyes full of shock. I don't think something like that. That would suit me. The tailor tightened the lace at her neck, her fingertips brushing over Olivia's silvery white hair. Oh my, I knew this would suit you. Olivia lowered her head to look at the ruby at her chest, her straight silvery white hair spilling over her shoulder, melancholy in her green eyes. What do you think, Your Grace? Olivia's green eyes widened, her gaze freezing in the air. Didn't I tell you already? Bright colors really don't suit you. Edwin stepped forward, his leather boots sounding heavily against the floor. It looks. He stopped where the light fell, his red eyes fixed ahead. Even better than I expected. Olivia lifted her head, her straight, silvery white hair swaying with the movement, her green eyes reflecting his figure. It really suits you. Edwin extended his right hand, lightly lifting a strand of her silvery white hair between his fingers. Edwin bent down close, his fingertips teasing up that strand of silver hair, dark and light intertwined together. It really suits you. As promised, I'll send over the jeweled brooch later today. Olivia stopped and turned her face slightly, her green eyes glinting in the shadows. Your Grace, there is something I must tell you. Olivia looked directly at Edwin before her. If your kindness is only because of that proposal, then there's no need. Am I treating you well right now? You're far too kind to me. All those compliments leave me at a loss. And that gentle look, those considerate gestures, and this expensive gift. Olivia sat across from Edwin. I am truly grateful. Only because of those things. Edwin lifted his head, a faint smile on his lips. In that case, I plan to treat you even better. Olivia's green eyes widened, her straight silvery white hair swaying. Why? Edwin looked at Olivia across from him. In truth, I've been holding myself back. So you wouldn't feel burdened, I've been trying to approach you. Now without frightening you. Olivia held her breath, her green eyes trembling slightly as she gazed at Edwin's face. Edwin lifted a hand to his chin, his red eyes glinting beneath his black hair. So please, of all things, don't ask me to stop being kind to you. Olivia lowered her gaze, her silvery white hair falling down. Understand. The coachman spoke softly from outside the carriage. Your Highness, we've arrived. Edwin adjusted his cuff. Good times always pass too quickly. He placed a silver long box on the table. Olivia lowered her eyes to the box, confusion in her green gaze. What is this? Open it and see. Olivia reached out and lifted the lid. The metal clasp sprang open. Inside, resting on the padded lining, was a pearl necklace set with rubies. Edwin raised one finger to his lips, amusement in his red eyes. This is a gift for your sister. I want to leave a good impression on someone you care about. The coachman carried the gift box toward the mansion. Olivia stood at the main gate, watching the carriage disappear into the distance, her straight silvery white hair moving in the night breeze. Holding the jewelry box, Olivia's eyes softened with gentle light, and the corners of her lips lifted. Lesla like it? Olivia stopped at the bend in the corridor, her eyes fixed ahead. Three maids were huddled together, whispering in low voices, their eyes flickering in the shadows. Miss Essela is looking for her. Olivia quickened her pace, her heels striking the stone in urgent beats. If she's calling for me, I have to go at once. Olivia threw the door open, her straight, silvery white hair flying wildly with emotion, her green eyes shrinking in terror. Essela, what's wrong? Olivia froze where she stood, her pupils trembling as she stared ahead. Essela sat collapsed by the window in the moonlight, both hands gripping her night dress tightly, tears streaming down her face. Big sister, was it true? Essela looked up, her purple eyes fixed on Olivia. Did Mother die because of you? Olivia stood rigid, her green eyes shrinking in horror. a broken sound forcing its way from her throat. Esela. Olivia hurried forward, her green skirt dragging across the floor, reaching out as if to touch the collapsed girl. Please listen to me explain. Don't touch me. You disgust me. Olivia withdrew her trembling hand and stared at the wound on her fingertips, her green eyes unfocused. Esela pushed herself up from the floor, her silver hair hanging loose and disordered, her distant purple eyes overflowing with tears. So all of it was true. All green-eyed people are liars. Esela pointed at Olivia and shouted, "You're no different. Don't pretend to care about me. How could you do this to me? This is all your fault. Mother disappeared because of you. It's all because of you." Olivia lowered her head and looked at the pearl necklace scattered across the floor, reflected in her green eyes. She actually said that. Esela really said that. Olivia's body shook violently, a broken cry escaping her throat. Issy. A maid rushed over and grabbed her swaying body. "Miss, please come to your senses." Olivia curled in on herself beneath the family portrait. The Duke slammed the door open and stormed inside with an enraged shout. "Where is Esela?" Olivia stood clutching the doorframe, her straight silvery white hair hanging over her green dress, her green eyes empty and unfocused, trembling as she called, "Father. You can't even do the one thing I asked of you. You actually let Esela learn the truth." The Duke turned away, candlelight illuminating his cold profile. "That unfortunate curse has stained her in the end as well. If I could, I would erase you from my life completely." Jed rushed up the stairs, fury blazing in his eyes. Olivia, Conrad, raised a hand to stop him. "Enough. Right now, Esela is what matters most. Where's the doctor?" Olivia was left alone in the dim corridor, her back to the people hurrying away, the green hem of her dress silent in the shadows. Olivia slowly lifted her head and looked at the enormous family portrait on the wall. Her green eyes brimmed with tears, yet her lips curled into a rigid line, a twisted smile. Night enveloped the entire manor. The empty hall was silent. Moonlight slanted across the cold marble floor. An attendant stared ahead in shock at the young woman who had appeared. "Miss Olivia? Had she really walked all the way here from the manor?" Olivia stood before the estate gates, her silvery white hair drifting in the night wind, her hands folded before the green skirt of her dress. Edwin bowed and asked, "Miss, did you come specially to welcome me?" Edwin held a blue jewelry box, his black hair gleaming coldly under the moonlight. There was a trace of amusement in his red eyes. "Just as I promised, aside from that diamond hairpin, there's almost nothing I cannot do for you." Edwin let the smile fade and looked at the girl before him. "Good evening, Your Grace." Edwin watched her movements, his gaze falling to her trembling fingers. "That expression, in your hand, what happened?" Olivia lowered her arm. "My expression?" Edwin stepped closer, his red eyes locking onto hers. "Yes, it feels like something happened. Something did happen, Lord Edwin." Olivia slowly raised her head and looked into the eyes of the man before her. "How far are you willing to go for me?" Edwin stood still, the red in his eyes deep beneath his black hair, a slight smile on his lips. "In this world, there are probably very few things I cannot do for you." Olivia reached out and grabbed his sleeve tightly, her fingertips turning white with force. "Then please help me." Olivia, standing before the manor in the moonlight, her straight silvery white hair looked deathly pale in the night, her green eyes overflowing with tears while a shattered smile hung on her lips. "I have nowhere left to go." The dark manor loomed beneath the night sky, its spires piercing the stars, beast-shaped shadows writhing along the walls. Olivia lay on her back on the bed, her silvery white hair spread out like waterweed, letting tears slide silently down her face. Edwin held a letter between his fingers, his gaze moving over the handwriting on the page. It was the farewell Olivia had left behind. She had departed for the palace at dawn. A maid stood in the center of the study and reported, "Miss has already left." Edwin replied quietly, "I know." Edwin sat on the windowsill, sunlight outlining his black hair as his red eyes remained fixed on the paper in his hand. A faint smile touched his lips. "Her handwriting is as beautiful as ever." The maids gathered in a corner of the courtyard, lowering their voices as they exchanged what they had seen that morning. She arrived in a carriage without a family crest. There were still traces of tears on her face. She didn't even bring a single piece of luggage. What on earth is Her Majesty the Empress thinking, entrusting this palace to a girl of impure blood? Olivia sat before the vanity, her silver white straight hair falling over her green dress. Her green eyes stared at her pale reflection in the mirror. Her fingertips brushed the pearl necklace at her throat. Perhaps the message simply hasn't reached here yet. That, too, would be a mercy, Baroness. The Baroness stiffened at once. Her brown hair was pinned up behind her head, and her hands were clasped uneasily over her chest. "Did you call for me?" Olivia kept her gaze on the reflection in the mirror, scrutiny in her green eyes. "Do I look as though I've been crying?" The Baroness faltered. "Then, please do my makeup for me. Today is Wednesday, the day I am to meet the Crown Prince." Black boots struck the red carpet with dull thuds, and the footsteps came to a halt in the splendid hall. Leopold stood at the center of the great hall, his short golden hair neatly combed to the side, a cold sharpness in his blue eyes. He wore a dark military uniform embroidered with gold thread. Leopold turned his face slightly, a faint smile surfacing in his blue eyes as he let Maria cling to his arm. I should make preparations, shouldn't I? Olivia stood before the cabinet, her silver-white straight hair spilling over a purple dress as her green eyes swept over the empty shelves. My teapot is gone. The Baroness stopped what she was doing, her eyes shifting uneasily among the cabinets. That. Olivia tilted her head slightly. Do you know which one it is? It's the teapot used only on Wednesdays, when His Highness the Crown Prince visits the palace. There are only 2 such teapots in the entire empire. The Baroness spun around. I'll go and find it once. Olivia stepped forward, the hem of her purple dress swaying over the red carpet. If I don't keep moving now, then there will be nothing left that I have stubbornly held on to. Even so, the season still remained. Olivia walked alone along the terrace, the hem of her purple skirt trailing over the marble floor, her shadow stretched long in the sunset. I heard Lady Madeline has moved into the palace. Olivia's eyes flew wide, her green pupils trembling. Maria, leaning against the back of the bench, Maria watched the clouds roiling on the horizon. Leopold turned his head. That's the rumor I've heard. An exquisite porcelain teapot sat on the table, thin white steam rising from the spout. In the sunlight, the vapor curled upward. Olivia stood at the far side of the fountain, watching the pair beneath the gazebo. Maria leaned against Leopold. I've always loved Wednesdays here, the time I spend with you. You used to say this palace reminded you of me. In the glow of the setting sun, it shines just like my hair. Leopold turned his face slightly. I did say that, just like now. Maria looked up at him. Moments like this always make me feel as though I'm your fiancé. But once that princess moves in, none of this will be possible anymore, will it? Leopold's tone was icy. Nonsense. Leopold turned his head slightly, the corner of his lips curling. That princess knows her place. She would never dare trouble you. I promise. Wrapped in a black cloak, Olivia walked through the ruined streets. Silver-white strands slipped from beneath her winter hat, and her green eyes took in the desolate road as she made her way through a dark alley. A porter carrying a heavy wooden crate stopped and shouted a warning. Watch out over there. We're still clearing this area. There are dangerous wrecks everywhere. Olivia curled up on the cold ground. The hem of her purple flowered skirt spread over the stone pavement. Her body trembled violently in the darkness. Footsteps approached, and Olivia jerked her head up. A mugging? If it is, who am I supposed to call for help? But who could I even call? Edwin? Edwin looked down at her. Beneath his black hair, his red eyes glimmered. Did you enjoy your outing? I've been waiting to escort you. Or perhaps you had some other business here. Edwin crouched down. He wrapped his cloak around her. Olivia sat collapsed on the stone road, her green eyes wide with shock. Why are you here? Edwin knelt before her on one knee. Because you're here, my lady. Olivia lifted her face and looked at the man right before her. Why? Edwin took her hands in both of his. Because I missed you. Olivia held her breath. Her green eyes trembled violently as tears gathered quickly at the edges of them and slid soundlessly down her pale cheeks. Edwin suddenly pulled his hands back and leaned away, flailing both arms in panic. My lady, did I do something wrong? Olivia reached out her hand. Then she threw herself into his arms, clutching the lapels of his black uniform tightly in both hands. I have nowhere left to go. There's nowhere that has a place for me. Olivia buried her face in his chest, her tears soaking through the dark fabric, her voice shaking apart. What am I supposed to do? Edwin lowered his eyes, his red gaze glinting in the shadows. That's not true. Everyone at the Archduke's estate has been counting the days ever since you left, longing for your return. Edwin raised his right hand and gently touched her silver-white hair. Of course, no one has been waiting for your return more than I have. So, are you leaving again today? Olivia lay on a white bed, her silver-white hair spread out like silk, her face pale as paper. A servant stood in the middle of the study. They said the young lady has already fallen asleep. When I heard she'd vanished all alone from the heavily guarded Imperial Palace, I was truly startled. Fortunately, Your Highness personally brought her back. Edwin said nothing. Under the lamplight, his red eyes narrowed slightly, his gaze fixed on the neat handwriting before him. Sweat slid down his temple. What kind of woman sends aid supplies and letters more than 5 times in a row without receiving even a single reply? If it were me, I would have stopped such a pointless act long ago. These anonymously delivered top-grade supplies never left a trace in any newspaper. She always sent exactly what was needed most, leaving no name and asking no reward. Life O'Green, clearly just a false alias. As time passed, the letters grew longer and longer, every line filled with prayers. She wished for the knights to return safely to the families they loved. The letters were also filled with worry for an ailing family member and longing for her fiancé's return. Edwin lowered his gaze to the paper, a trace of a smile in his red eyes. Such pure kindness seemed so utterly out of place on the battlefield. Then a roar erupted from outside, shattering the afternoon calm. How dare you? How dare you send me this? What happened? A soldier stood beside Edwin. The vice captain's sister sent a letter. Jed flung out an arm and hurled the letter violently to the ground. This kind of trash should be thrown away. Jed turned around, his short silver-white hair sweeping in the wind. Edwin stopped and looked down at the white paper on the ground, then bent to pick it up. Edwin, unfolded the letter, and his red eyes narrowed. The same paper. More importantly, the same handwriting. Olivia Madeline. That arrogant, rude woman. The disgrace of the Madeline family. That mixed blood girl with green eyes. Edwin tilted his head slightly, amusement flickering in his red eyes. So she had been lying all along. Edwin looked down at the paper in his hand, the smile beneath his black hair deepening. I hadn't even had the chance to send my final letter, and yet we ended up meeting again like this. Edwin sat on a bench, a red robe draped loosely around his shoulders, warm and comfortable in the deep winter. You intend to welcome her sincerely? His aide stepped forward. Why would you go this far for her? Forgive my impertinence, but do you truly mean to do this? No matter how deeply you care for her, she is still the daughter of the Madeline family, a descendant of the imperialist faction's leader. She's the crown prince's fiancée. In Wakand, there are many who even hate Duke Madeline. Edwin sat behind the desk, his cheek resting on his right hand. I hate him too. The aide froze, his brown eyes shrinking slightly. What did you say? Edwin's red eyes gleamed with a smile. The Duke? Yes, I dislike him as well. But I don't believe I could ever dislike that young lady. During the war, she sent turkey meat to everyone like an angel, and people all praised her. The aide's eyes widened, a bead of cold sweat appearing at his temple. Could it be? Edwin rose to his feet. It's enough that you know. Even if you don't understand her yet, someone like her will win everyone's heart sooner or later. The aide stood frozen, lips trembling slightly. But what if? Edwin's lips curved. Even so, nothing will change. She will become my archduchess. His shoes rang crisply across the wooden floor in a skirt, swayed with the steps. A maid stood by the bed, lifting the sides of her white apron with both hands. Good morning, my lady. My name is Hannah. I will be attending to you from today onward. Allow me to help you wash and dress. Hannah suddenly stopped moving, her brown eyes widening as she stared ahead. Covering her mouth, she trembled. Good heavens. Olivia stood by the window, her silver white hair falling all the way to her waist, turning her head toward the maid behind her. Hannah hurried closer, clasping her hands before her chest. Even though you slept so late last night, you're already awake. Olivia lowered her gaze, her green eyes shadowed by her lashes. It's just a habit. Hannah pointed outside the door. The head chef was so happy to hear you arrived. Would you like to have breakfast with us? Is there anything you'd like to eat? Olivia looked down at her fingertips. Before that, Olivia lifted her head, her green eyes on Hannah. Does His Grace usually eat breakfast? Hannah bit her fingertip. That depends on the day. Sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. Olivia pushed open the heavy wooden door, her green eyes scanning the hallway warily. A tall figure loomed over her. Edwin. He bent close to her ear, smiling with his red eyes. Are you looking for something? I'm looking for His Grace. Olivia's shoulders drew up sharply, her green eyes widening in surprise. Edwin let out a soft laugh, his red eyes curving like crescents, a faint flush rising to his cheeks. Were you looking for me? Olivia stood there, her silver white hair slightly disheveled, her green eyes full of awkwardness, both hands gripping her skirt tightly. Edwin straightened, resting his right hand on the back of a chair. If you tell me in advance, I'll come to you at once. I thought meat might be too heavy for breakfast, so I had something lighter prepared. On the white porcelain plate were croissants and strawberries, with a few slices of orange arranged among green leaves. Knife and fork lay neatly on either side of the tablecloth. Olivia sat by the round table, both hands folded on her lap. Your Grace, thank you for bringing me here yesterday. I don't know how long I'll stay, but during that time, I'll be troubling you. Olivia raised her head, her right hand brushing the dark green ribbon at her chest. If there is anything I can do, please tell me. I don't want to just sit here and waste my time. I once managed the finances of the ducal estate and the crown prince's palace. I also have experience handling court affairs. I believe I can be of help. A silver knife cut into a red piece of meat. Edwin propped his chin on his right hand, his red eyes glinting beneath his black hair. Do you truly think you can handle it? I have very high expectations. Pointed towers pierced the sky, white clouds rolling behind the blue roofs. A frantic cry broke the silence. Miss, please open the door. A maid stood before a tightly shut door. It's already been 3 days. You haven't eaten or drunk anything, and you haven't said a word. If frail Miss Essela collapses like this, what are we supposed to do? Lady Pluto's dress shop has sent someone. They're waiting right outside. The maid snapped around. Can't you see the situation right now? Send them away immediately. A hand slid into view, nails painted bright red, the order card gleaming beneath the light. I am Lady Pluto. Olivia Madeline personally requested that I come make a dress for Miss Essela Madeline. Lady Pluto stroked the ruby at her chest. I've come in person. So where is Miss Essela? Lady Pluto looked around. A purple carpet stretched down the corridor, and 4 maids stood with their heads bowed. The atmosphere fell deathly still. Lady Pluto's smile faded, her golden eyes narrowing slightly. Has something happened? The maids huddled together. Shameless, really. She left like that, and now she wants to buy us off with bribes? Lady Pluto stood still, clutching her handbag tightly as 2 attendants holding gift boxes stood behind her. The maids' voices rose and fell in the shadows. She must have placed the order yesterday. She was planning to come back all along. Lady Pluto opened the name ledger in her hand. There must be some misunderstanding. Olivia Madeline made this reservation 3 weeks ago, not yesterday. It was made 3 weeks ago. Ursula stood in the center of the hall, her silver white hair falling over her white dress. Lady Pluto stood on the purple carpet. We had originally planned to come last week, but because of a schedule conflict, we changed it to today. How dare you lie so brazenly? Sally knelt on the cold floor, her brown twin tails shaking violently. It's true. Sally lifted her face, tears pooling in her brown eyes. 3 weeks ago, my lady passed by this place and thought the shop would suit Miss Ursula, so she made the reservation in advance. So you're saying our second young lady would order Lady Pluto's clothes? Because of her? That dancer's daughter killed her mother. I don't believe she'd ever treat someone like that as her sister. Ursula curled up on the floor, silver white hair covering her whole body. Ursula stood before the mirror, arranging Olivia's hair. Ursula gritted her teeth, her silver white hair trembling at the tips. Trash. This trash. Ursula suddenly flung out her arm and hurled the jewelry in her hand to the ground. Her round purple eyes widened with fury, her hair flying wildly as she let out a sharp scream. Olivia stood in the shadows, her green eyes fixed ahead. Ursula lifted her face, her round purple eyes brimming with tears that slid down her cheeks. Her lips trembled slightly, and strands of hair clung messily to her forehead. Ursula clutched the fabric of her white dress tightly over her chest, her knuckles white with force. Sister. Edwin rested his chin on his right hand, his red eyes glinting beneath his black hair. There are many things I look forward to. Olivia sat at the dining table, her silver white hair draped over her flower dress. Her green eyes widened slightly. Of course, nothing illegal. Edwin threw his head back and laughed, his black hair shaking with emotion. Olivia sat frozen across from him, her green eyes full of confusion. Edwin raised his right hand and held up 3 fingers. I ask only 3 things. First, eat your meals on time. Second, get enough sleep. Third, do what you truly want to do. Edwin tilted his head, his red eyes curving beneath his black hair as he raised a hand in a playful V sign. And if you don't mind, I'd also be very happy if you made use of me a little. Olivia pressed both hands against her thighs, her fingertips sinking into the flowered fabric. Is he teasing me? Olivia lowered her gaze, her silver white hair covering half her face, her green eyes trembling faintly. No, it doesn't seem like he's joking. I want to cry. Olivia suddenly stood up. Please wait a moment. I'll be gone for just a minute. Edwin stared blankly from his seat, an ellipsis practically floating over his head. Are you telling me to leave? Olivia hurriedly shook her head. No, I just mean, please excuse me for a moment. Winster pushed the door open and entered. It took this much effort just to bring her here. Haha, quiet. Winster, cult. Edwin leaned back in his chair. What are you here for? Winster stood to the side. I was told I had to greet the young lady on time, so here I am. Edwin let out a scoff. You only obey so obediently when it comes to things like that. Olivia sat at the dining table, her silver white hair reaching her waist, confusion in her green eyes. Didn't I tell you yesterday? Winster raised a hand and rubbed at the corner of his eye, unable to stop laughing. It's too absurd. Everyone in the Archduke's estate has been waiting for you, my lady. Is something troubling you? Olivia turned her head, her silver white hair falling over her purple dress. No. Exquisite desserts covered the table. There is delicious food here, and comfortable beds, and even a perfect library. Olivia sat facing Edwin. Most importantly, Edwin lowered his head slightly, a smile in his red eyes, though he always looks so busy. Olivia looked at the man before her, light shifting in her eyes as the corners of her lips lifted faintly. How long had it been since she'd eaten a meal this comfortably with someone else? You've been sighing nonstop. Olivia suddenly straightened her back, her silver white hair swaying. I think it's because I didn't bring my diary. I always have the habit of writing in one. The maid clasped both hands under her chin. Goodness, if only you'd said so sooner. I'll fetch one for you right away. Olivia stood in the hallway. A gentle look shone in the eyes before her, and a hand waved lightly. That's not the real reason, is it? Olivia's eyes flew wide, her green pupils shrinking in the shadows as she stared at the figure ahead. Your Highness, since when have you been standing there? Edwin leaned against the doorway, smiling with his red eyes beneath his black hair. Have you kept our promise? Olivia lifted the hem of her skirt, her silver white hair brushing the floor. Yes, as you can see, I've been eating well. Edwin stepped closer. Since we've eaten together, I can confirm that. I can't see you while you're sleeping, but I'll trust that you've been sleeping well too. Edwin lowered his head slightly, his red eyes fixed on Olivia. Then what about the third thing? Olivia tilted her head, confusion written all over her green eyes. Huh. Edwin placed both hands on his hips. You haven't asked me for anything even once. Doesn't that completely go against our agreement? A diary. I can get that for you too. Everyone has been so kind to me. There's really nothing I want to ask for. Edwin took a step forward. How strange. Are you sure there's truly nothing you need? Olivia lowered her gaze to the floor, silver white hair shading her eyes. Truly, nothing at all. Olivia raised her head, light flickering in her green eyes, her right hand resting lightly over her chest. I truly don't need your highness to help me with anything. Asking for more would be too greedy. I've already been very well cared for. In that case, I'll return to the ducal estate tomorrow. Edwin froze where he stood. You really intend to do that? Yes. Usually, dresses and jewelry are delivered the day before. Tomorrow is the final day of the victory banquet. As the Crown Prince's fiancé, I have no choice but to attend. If I fail to appear, all the blame will fall on him. At the very least, to prevent that from happening. Olivia turned her face slightly, her silver white hair covering one cheek, her green eyes tightening faintly. Are you angry? Edwin lowered his eyes. Shadows fell beneath his black hair, and loneliness showed in his red eyes. I'm not angry. I am confused. I asked you to rely on me, and yet you insist on bearing everything alone. I don't understand. Edwin extended his right hand. My lady, I have always been a greedy man. Meeting you was when I was desperately yearning for something precious. Edwin took Olivia's hand. So please tell me, what is it that someone as precious as you truly desires? The next day, the final day of the victory banquet, Leopold stood in the banquet hall, his short golden hair and blue eyes stern. Duke, where's Olivia? There are rumors that my fiancé has gone missing. The gossip is making things difficult for me. The Duke turned his head. She is not the sort of child to shirk responsibility. Leopold frowned. I know that. The point is, where is she now? As my fiancé, she must attend His Majesty with me today. Of all days, at a time this important. The grand hall glittered magnificently, a red carpet running toward the throne as nobles gathered beneath the lights. The empty seat stood out all the more glaringly. Olivia Madeline, where on earth are you? A chamberlain unfurled a scroll and announced in a ringing voice the entrance of a hero of war. His Highness Edwin Lowell Wakehand, and accompanying him. Every gaze in the room converged, the air freezing at once. His partner, Miss Olivia Madeline. Leopold stood rooted to the spot, his blue eyes shaking violently. The Duke, too, turned to stare at the figure. Beneath an arch adorned with white flowers, Olivia walked in slowly. Her silver white hair flowed like moonlight, and layers of white skirt spread around her. Rubies shimmered softly at her throat and shoulders. They entered together. Edwin held Olivia's hand tightly and bowed to the Emperor seated high above. Greetings to your Majesty, radiant as the blazing sun. The Emperor, draped in a leopard-patterned mantle, looked down at them with slightly widened blue eyes beneath short golden hair. Archduke, you brought a partner today. Edwin bowed with a hand to his chest, his black hair falling slightly forward. It is all thanks to your Majesty's grace. Do you remember the wish I was granted on the first day of the celebration? Edwin lifted his head, a glimmer in his red eyes. I beg your Majesty's permission to marry the most precious woman to me, Olivia Madeline. The Emperor froze. Beneath his golden hair, his blue eyes shrank violently. His jaw clenched, and the muscles in his face twisted with anger. Below the dais, people burst into murmurs. What is going on? Did the Archduke just propose to Miss Madeline? If he's requesting permission from His Majesty, then he must have already proposed, and she accepted. With that young lady around, there isn't a single peaceful day. Olivia slowly turned her head, her silver white hair slipping over her shoulder. In her eyes danced flecks of light as she looked at the man beside her. Edwin turned toward her with a smile, brightness in his red eyes beneath his black hair, the corners of his lips lifting as he gazed at Olivia. Heavy footsteps sounded. Black boots pounded across the red carpet as Leopold strode forward, bloodshot blue eyes fixed on the two of them on the dais. Just now, you dared propose to my fiancé? Have you lost your mind? Edwin turned slightly, the look in his red eyes as cold as ice beneath his black hair. Leopold thrust out his right hand, fingers spread wide, toward Olivia. Come here, to me. What are you wearing? There should have been a spare gown. I clearly said you were not to wear bright colors. Olivia turned her head back, her silver white hair sliding over her shoulder. Leopold's reflection mirrored in her eyes. Sweat slid down from his temple, his breathing quickening. Edwin wrapped an arm around Olivia's shoulders and drew her into the shadow of his red cloak. Looking down at Leopold with red eyes, he said, Your Highness, you needn't send gowns to Miss Madeline anymore. Leopold froze, his blue eyes filled with disbelief. What? Edwin stared straight ahead. Jewelry as well. One of my greatest pleasures is choosing everything for her myself. Olivia lowered her eyes, silver white hair veiling the side of her face as sweat slipped down her neck. Do you remember what I told you? Only look at me. Last night, at the Archduke's residence, Edwin stood before the table. I will use the wish the Emperor granted me to propose to you. Olivia sat in a chair, her silver white hair falling before her, her eyes widening in shock. You look very surprised. I'm doing my best to fulfill your request. I'm just a little surprised, but this is the most effective method. This is the most effective way to keep you far away from everything. Edwin stepped forward. You should know that I do have a little selfishness of my own, but it's still too early to worry about that. I won't use this as an excuse to force you into anything. Olivia sat opposite him, confusion in her green eyes. Why not? Edwin's lips tilted upward. It may sound like a transaction, but there is something I want. Edwin closed his eyes, his black hair shading his brow. At tomorrow's banquet, only look at me. No matter what anyone says, no matter who approaches you, I will step in and stop them. A magnificent chandelier hung in the center of the hall. Leopold stood in the middle of the red carpet, his blue eyes rigid with fury beneath his golden hair while guests whispered all around. Edwin stared forward, his red eyes cold beneath his black hair. I will block every one of them. The guests kept glancing over, hushed commotion spreading through the air as eyes followed the pair walking side by side. I think I need a little time to gather my thoughts. The Duke moved through the crowd and climbed the steps, a cold gleam in his eyes as he looked toward Leopold. Your Majesty, may I speak with my daughter alone? The Emperor rested his chin on one hand, amusement flashing through his blue eyes beneath his golden hair. That sounds like a good idea. Then everyone, please continue enjoying the banquet. Duke, you should have a proper talk with your daughter. Edwin loosened his hold on Olivia's hand, his red eyes fixed on her beneath his black hair. Then what do you intend to do now? Olivia turned her head, turmoil hidden in her green eyes. I don't know. This is the first time Father has ever come looking for me at a ball. Olivia twisted the white skirt in her fingers until her knuckles turned pale. I must look so foolish right now. Edwin stood at her side, his red eyes fixed ahead beneath his black hair. Not at all. I only think the Duke is an incredibly fortunate man. Edwin watched the man approaching. He's been given one last chance. The Duke came before them and bowed deeply. It is an honor to meet the great war hero. If I may, could I speak with my daughter alone? Expressionless, Edwin looked down at him coldly. My permission is irrelevant. What matters is her will. Olivia, is something the matter? Olivia spoke first. The Duke halted. Let's find somewhere quiet to talk. Duke Madeline, do not waste this chance. You understand what I mean, do you not? Yes. Outside on the terrace, the night was deep, the sound of the fountain echoing in the silence. The Duke suddenly seized Olivia hard by the shoulders. What trick did you pull? The Duke roared. What exactly did you say to make the Archduke of Wakehand propose to you? Throwing his arms wide, he bellowed, I asked you to do one thing, just one thing, and that was to become crown princess without scandal. Are you truly so useless you can't even manage something that simple? Olivia stood in the moonlight, the Duke's twisted face reflected in her green eyes. Slowly, she lowered her head, silver white hair falling over her chest and hiding every trace of expression. Then Olivia's lips curved upward. The Duke suddenly recoiled, his hand hanging in the air as he stared at the strange sight before him. Olivia burst into laughter. Her silver white hair shook violently, both hands clutching her stomach as her body rocked back and forth in the moonlight. She lifted a hand and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Olivia turned away. I really believed that one day you would look at me warmly. She showed half her face in profile, silver white hair drifting in the moonlight as her green eyes fixed on the Duke. I truly believed that one day you would treat me as your daughter. I never once doubted it, and I never asked the Archduke to propose to me. The Crown Prince ignored his fiancée, grew close to Maria, and all sorts of rumors followed. Even so, would you still believe me? Olivia raised a hand to the ruby at her chest, her green eyes looking straight ahead. If I said that, would you believe me? The Duke ground his teeth and shouted, Shut your mouth. Olivia closed her eyes. The one who brought me into this house and made me the Crown Prince's fiancée in Essela's place. Isn't that the Duke standing right here? The Duke roared. Shut up. This is all your fault. If you had never entered this house, none of this would have happened. The Duke clenched his gloved fists. This is all your fault. You brought every misfortune into my life, both now and in the past. I actually did nothing at all. Olivia folded both hands before her, silver white hair falling to her waist as her green eyes slowly closed. The Duke exploded again. Olivia Madeline, how dare you be so insolent? Olivia stepped back. Didn't you once say you wanted me to disappear? If I could, I would erase you from my life completely. In that case, tell me, what is it that you truly desire deep in your heart? Olivia lifted her head, tears shining in her green eyes as she looked at the man before her. Can you really grant my wish? Edwin, didn't I tell you many times? I will always be at your command, my lady. Olivia spoke slowly. In that case, I feel the same. It has long been my deepest wish. Olivia raised a hand to the ruby at her chest. I want to erase the name Madeline. I want to cut Madeline completely out of my life, including everything I once loved. Will you help me destroy the Madelines? Olivia, the Duke's mouth fell open. He let out a furious roar. Enough. Edwin's voice turned sharp. If you dare threaten this noble lady again, Duke, you will make an enemy of all Wakehand. The Duke stood rooted in place, his expression dark beneath his silver white hair, glaring at the man before him. Edwin turned, his red eyes, under black hair, settling on Olivia. Let us go, my lady. Edwin lowered his head slightly, his red eyes locking onto hers. Olivia's figure was reflected in them. Olivia turned around. Let's go back to the hall, not home. I spent a long time preparing for how I look today. Don't you think we ought to dance at least once? Olivia reached out and rested her hand on his arm. Her fingertips tightened on the red fabric. In that case, Edwin lowered his head close to her, smiling with his red eyes. Then you will grant me the honor of the first dance tonight as well, won't you? Olivia leaned against Edwin's shoulder, her silver white hair spilling over his red uniform. A smile curved on her lips as she felt the warmth of his palm. Olivia opened her eyes, and brilliant lights shimmered within them. Edwin drew an arm around Olivia's waist, his red cloak spreading wide in the center of the dance floor. Olivia lifted her skirt and danced, her silver white hair swirling through the air with the movement. The surrounding guests all turned to look, whispering among themselves. Those steps, Aren't they too complicated? It would be a lie to say they aren't. Honestly, I think they're difficult too. Edwin took Olivia's hand and abruptly pulled her close into his arms, amusement in his red eyes. Olivia looked up at him. And what about you, your grace? His Majesty the Emperor even left his seat without giving permission. But for tonight, I made perfect preparations as well. Olivia closed her eyes, a smile appearing on her lips. Leopold stood in the shadows, his blue eyes fixed ahead, cold and deep. Edwin spun with Olivia in his arms, his black hair brushing close to her ear. The Crown Prince is staring at me from behind. I only just realized how happy dancing with you makes me. Olivia's body stiffened at once, her eyes narrowing slightly. What should we do? Leopold approached slowly, a smile rising in his blue eyes. Edwin released Olivia's hand, his red eyes shifting beneath his black hair. If you wish, I can stay with a white-gloved hand cut between them. Jed placed a hand on Olivia's shoulder. We need to talk. Jed kept his hand on Olivia's shoulder, his purple eyes fixed ahead. Edwin, I want to speak with Olivia. Would Her Highness step aside? Edwin tilted his head slightly, smiling with his red eyes beneath his black hair. The vice captain is as terse as ever. It's been so long. Have you not even a proper greeting? Jed lowered his brows, purple eyes glinting in the shadows. The moment I discovered the intelligence from Capet-Un was false, I threw it away. Edwin spread his left hand, his red eyes fixed on the other man. That's very good to hear. I was worried it might interfere with the oath you made to Olivia. So, in order to get rid of me, you deliberately fed us false information. Is that it? Edwin's lips curled, but his red eyes remained calm. Of course not. Edwin wrapped an arm around Olivia's waist, his black hair brushing near her cheek. Then, my lady, shall we return as planned? Jed took a step forward, his short silver-white hair swaying in the light. His purple eyes locked ahead as he roared, Olivia. Olivia stopped walking, her silver-white hair falling over her white dress, her green eyes utterly calm. I have nothing to say. Jed's eyes flew wide, bloodshot purple eyes fixed on her. But I do. Where exactly have you been all this time? At the Archduke's residence? Jed reached out and seized Olivia by the wrist. Before you rebel, know your place first. Ever since Essela collapsed, everything has been tense. Olivia softly repeated the word. Rebel? Confusion filled her green eyes as she looked at the enraged Jed. Jed raised a hand to his forehead, his short silver-white hair disordered between his fingers. Don't make things more complicated. Come back with me. If this isn't rebellion, then what is it? Stop being so reckless. Do you want me to go back? Jed's eyes widened suddenly, his purple gaze fixed hard on her. Olivia looked at Jed, her silver-white hair stirring in the wind. Back where? Jed froze. Olivia reflected in his purple eyes. Isn't it obvious? For the sake of this country, the Archduke of Wakand must swear loyalty to the princess. Could it be because of you that my mother? The door was pushed open a crack, letting out a harsh scraping sound as light cut through the room's gloom. Olivia turned in sudden alarm, silver-white hair scattering over her shoulders, her green eyes trembling in the shadows. Who are you? Where are you, Mom? Jed, did you put frogs in my room again? Olivia held her breath, her green eyes widening sharply as they reflected the figure standing in the doorway. Jed? Olivia raised a hand to cover her mouth and nose. What happened? What's that smell? It's all alcohol. She's my sister. Then who are you? Olivia held a stuffed rabbit tightly, her fingers drawing in as she looked at Jed's face coming closer. I thought you were my sister. Jed tilted his head back, tears spilling from his purple eyes and running down his cheeks. A tray sat untouched on the wooden table, the bread and meat cold, a silver spoon reflecting a chill light. You haven't eaten anything yet, have you? Olivia turned her head, her silver-white hair falling over one side of her face. Jed's outline reflected in her green eyes. Father and brother, they've really been too cruel to you. Jed sat on the floor, his back against the cold wall. Jed stood in the harsh light, his short silver-white hair somewhat disheveled, tears overflowing from his purple eyes. Was it because of you? Is that why my mother died? Olivia's eyes flew wide, her green pupils shrinking sharply as they reflected Jed's tear-streaked face. In that instant, her breath stopped. The jewelry box on the table had been overturned, a white glove pressing down on a letter as gemstones cast cold reflections in the light. An oath? You actually made him swear an oath? Jed let out a furious roar. You idiot. You have no idea what kind of monster that Archduke really is. Jed suddenly swept his hand out, knocking the jewelry box from the table. The white glove slipped to the floor, and a letter spread open in the shifting light. Jed, thank you for the gloves. I have nothing more to say, Sir Madeline. Jed stood frozen in place, his silver-white short hair falling over his forehead. What did you just say? I've already said it. Olivia lowered her eyes slightly, her side-swept bangs shading her gaze. I've already told Father, no, the Archduke. From now on, or rather, as has always been the case. Jed remained rooted to the spot. Cold sweat seeped beneath his silver-white hair, and his violet eyes contracted sharply as he stared at Olivia before him. Olivia closed her eyes and pressed her fingertips against the ruby at her chest. I will completely erase the name Madeline from my life, the name that once meant everything to me. Goodbye, Sir Madeline. Olivia lifted her skirt, her long silver-white hair rising in the wind, and walked resolutely toward the exit of the hall. A maid opened her eyes in alarm. "You're back earlier than expected." Olivia wore a white fur cloak, her long silver white hair glimmering in the night, her green eyes lowered slightly. "I told you, I don't like banquets. Even so, you still look radiant tonight." A servant with dark hair poked his head out. "Did everything go smoothly, Your Grace?" "Miss, did anything unusual happen?" Edwin raised a hand and undid the button at his collar. A trace of weariness passed through his red eyes. "Nothing worth mentioning, though I'm a little hungry." Edwin turned his head, his red eyes shifting to Olivia behind him. "And you, miss?" Edwin's red eyes suddenly narrowed, his gaze locking onto Olivia's face. "Miss." Olivia collapsed toward the ground. Olivia fell into Edwin's arms. Her long silver white hair spilled over his arm, her green eyes shut tight, her face pale as paper. Olivia's brows were tightly knit, sweat sliding down her temples. Her breathing grew rapid and faint, as if she were enduring some terrible pain, even in unconsciousness. Olivia lay by the water, her straight silver white hair spread over the ground, her green almond-shaped eyes slowly opening to gaze at the inverted sky. "Where is this?" Olivia sat up. She raised her right hand, touching her lower lip with her fingertips, confusion filling her green eyes. "Since I come back from the ball, I should write in my diary." Olivia widened her green eyes as she looked at the red-covered book. "Did Hannah buy a new diary while I was away?" Olivia turned her head and looked at the stack of old diaries. Those memories from the past were falling one volume after another. "Today, I foolishly called Essela father said, 'This attitude damages noble dignity.' It made him completely lose his appetite. I must correct this mistake. I will never let something like this happen again. My table manners are far from elegant. Father said it ruined his appetite. I absolutely must not make the same mistake again. Keep thinking, Olivia. Don't make a single error. Keep trying to do your best. Perhaps coming here in the first place was a mistake." Olivia sat barefoot by the water, her green eyes fixed on the open diary. Olivia stared into the void, her green eyes trembling faintly as they reflected those cold words. In the silence, her breathing grew heavy. The pen scratched across the page. "I didn't do anything." Olivia lifted her face, her green eyes brimming with tears. Olivia's long, silver-white hair fell to her waist. Tears slid from her green eyes down her cheeks, soaking the lace at her chest. Edwin stood by the window, his red eyes fixed outside. "How serious is it?" The doctor pushed up his glasses. "Sleep deprivation, malnutrition, and dehydration. She is lacking almost everything. She was fine before returning to the territory. Why did she suddenly collapse? If there is no special illness, then her body had already reached its limit. Or perhaps she finally let her guard down. Have you seen the back of the young lady's hand?" Edwin lowered his gaze, his red eyes tightening slightly. "I know, that hand was pale to the bone. Just how much pain has that slender body endured? She worried about me even while using a false name, yet didn't even have the strength to care for herself. Those foolish bastards. What the hell were those people doing? How could they fail to notice the treasure right in front of them? They missed the most precious thing, even with it before their eyes. This is a bad habit. Please make sure she stays as far from stress as possible and gets proper rest." Edwin reached out and took hold of the green doorknob. "Naturally, I must make them respect her. I need to see the Emperor as soon as possible, so I can bring that young lady back to the Archduke's territory without trouble." Edwin stopped and turned his face slightly, a cold look in his red eyes. He raised a hand to his forehead and let out a heavy sigh. "Miss, you're finally awake?" Olivia leaned against the headboard, her green eyes gentle. "Your Highness, I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble. I thought I was always healthy." The maid waved her arms. "It's because you're usually too healthy that a small illness like this knock you over all at once. The doctor said you need plenty of rest, and you must eat and take your medicine on time." Olivia lowered her head to look at the blanket, her hands folded on her knees. "I've already rested enough." The maid put her hands on her hips and protested loudly. "Miss, I don't think so. You call reading rest, and you're always worrying about what the territory lacks." The maid puffed out her chest, her brown, round eyes earnest. "You need real rest and proper meals." Edwin walked in slowly, a smile in his red eyes. "Hannah is right, Mississippi. I'll have the kitchen prepare a more nutritious menu. Hannah, remove anything that might interfere with the young lady's rest." Hannah stood at attention. "Yes, Your Grace. The soup and medicine are already prepared." Hannah covered her mouth, her neat brown hair tied in a low ponytail, her round brown eyes curving into crescents. "Then I'll step out first." Olivia sat on the edge of the bed, looking puzzled as she watched Hannah leave. Edwin sat by the bed, using a silver spoon to stir the bowl of soup. Edwin lifted a spoonful and held it to Olivia's lips. "Come on, open your mouth." Olivia froze in place, her green eyes widening sharply. Her mind went blank. This shameless man. Olivia shrank back. "Please let me eat by myself." Edwin frowned faintly. "Don't speak. Your throat hurts." Olivia pressed her lips tightly together, her green eyes full of resistance, her cheeks flushing red. Edwin moved closer again, his red eyes leaving no room for refusal. "Come now, Edwin bent down, a thread of bloodshot red flashing in his eyes. If you keep refusing to eat, then from now on, every meal, I will personally feed you. Olivia froze again, her green eyes filled with shock as her thoughts descended into chaos. Lowering her gaze helplessly, she slowly parted her lips and took the silver spoon into her mouth. Since we've finished eating, shall we take the medicine too? Olivia closed her eyes and let the bitter liquid slide down her throat, her brows knitting slightly. Edwin set down the medicine bowl. How does it taste? Is it to your liking? Olivia leaned toward the bed, her voice soft. Yes, it's sweet. Edwin lowered his eyes to the empty bowl. I had them add a little honey. I'm glad you like it. Olivia leaned against the headboard, a faint smile at the corner of her lips. Sweets will make me gain weight, but they're still better than bitter medicine. I'm a little sleepy. Edwin bent down, his red eyes gentle. The medicine must be taking effect. Get some sleep. Edwin reached out and gently pulled the white blanket over Olivia. His red eyes watched as she closed hers. Rest well, Olivia. Ursula walked alone through the corridor, her long silver white hair flowing down her back, dressed in a white silk nightgown, her fingertips lightly brushing the cold wall. What? The first princess? Two maids were whispering in the corner. I heard she received a proposal from that infamous butcher, that monster archduke. Was she cast out because she lost her place as crown princess? Or because she was completely abandoned? She may deserve it, but is she really going to marry a man like that? I heard he used the wish granted by the emperor to request the marriage himself. The wedding will be held soon. Ursula stood motionless, her violet eyes shrinking violently. That man called a monster of the battlefield, and my sister are getting married? Olivia held a bouquet, smiling with her green eyes. Look, Ursula, His Highness the Crown Prince sent me flowers. Ursula turned around abruptly. Even if my sister and I fought, this still isn't right. He clearly loved Her Highness so much. No matter what, I have to stop all of this. Ursula halted, moonlight shining on her face. The light slowly faded from her round violet eyes. But what right do I have? Everyone with green eyes is a liar. Mother died because of that green-eyed woman, but not my sister. I have to help her. What a wicked person, trying to interfere between my sister and His Highness. Ursula hurried toward the main door. I have to tell Father. Father, a low male voice came from inside the room. You can't push Ursula into the position of crown princess to replace Olivia. Ursula stopped in place, her violet pupils widening in the shadows. Conrad spread his hand. If Ursula becomes crown princess, she will wither and die under the poison of the imperial palace. I absolutely cannot let that happen. The Duke lowered his head and pressed a hand to his forehead. You agree too, don't you, Father? Outside the door, Ursula stood with her silver white hair spilling over her shoulders, her violet eyes contracting violently. A hand suddenly landed on her. Jed stood behind Ursula, his face shrouded in darkness. Come with me. Ursula spun around, terror filling her violet eyes. Brother Jed, what were they just talking about? What does that mean? It isn't true, right? What do you mean it isn't true? Ursula clutched her skirt tightly with both hands, her knuckles turning white. My sister becoming crown princess. That wasn't because of me, right? I don't know. Tell me quickly. It's not true, is it? Jed stood in the moonlight. You're making me so irritated. Ursula lifted her head and screamed. Tell me. That was a lie. That position was supposed to be mine. Was sister brought back only for that purpose? Is that the truth? So that was it. And that crushing engagement. Now everything had an answer. When mother died, sister was only 6 years old. Tears burst from Ursula's eyes, her round violet eyes full of shattering grief. She loved mother so much, and yet she had to bear all of this. She turned and ran off. Jed called out from afar, Ursula. The castle stood silent under the moonlight as birds swept past its spires. Olivia sat at her desk, her straight silver-white hair tied back. Her green almond eyes turned toward the door. Her writing hand paused. Edwin pushed the door open, smiling with his red eyes. Feeling better? Olivia set down her quill. Thank you for your concern, Your Grace. I've fully recovered, but don't you think this is excessive? You've taken away all my books. Books are meant to be read. Who reads while resting? You should be lying there and relaxing. Olivia pointed to the empty tabletop, a flash of dissatisfaction in her green eyes. Resting is exactly when one should read. I have completely recovered. Reading, your current condition still doesn't allow it. You need more sleep. Look, even my voice has recovered. Edwin lowered his head toward her, his red eyes locking onto hers. Then shall we go have a meal? You must eat more, otherwise I will. Olivia abruptly turned her head, her silver white hair swaying by her ears, her cheeks flushing. All right, I understand. Urgent knocking came from outside the door. A servant pushed it open. Your Grace, forgive the interruption. An urgent message has arrived from the palace. 1 letter is from His Majesty for you, and 2 are for the young lady, from the Crown Prince's palace and the Princess's palace respectively. Edwin turned around, all trace of warmth gone from his red eyes. Your whole family likes writing to you at once, doesn't it? Olivia raised a hand to cover her mouth, helplessness filling her green eyes as she let out a light sigh. Family is family. After all, Edwin tilted his head, studying her with his red eyes. Why do the letters sent to you also demand that you come immediately? Olivia gave a faint laugh. Not a single word is wrong. These are completely different from the greeting cards I used to receive. So this is what Leopold's real handwriting feels like. No affection, no concern, nothing at all. Edwin, pressed a hand on the edge of the stationery. Shall we write the replies together? Edwin sat in the armchair, his red eyes narrowing into crescents, the corners of his lips curling up. Olivia stared blankly at that smiling face. An attendant crossed the palace corridor and presented a letter with both hands. Reporting to your highness, the princess, Lady Madeline's reply has arrived. Leopold stood by the window, his blue eyes sweeping toward the attendant. What did she say? The attendant lowered his head, his voice echoing through the vast hall. She said her health does not permit her attendance. Leopold whipped his head around, his blue eyes shrinking sharply in the shadows, a cold glint appearing in them. Say that again. Lena stood with her hands hanging at either side of her layered white skirt, facing the towering iron-framed window. Lena bit her knuckle. Olivia, that arrogant girl. I still have to prepare the flowers for the summer banquet, and she dares refuse my summons. If the standard this year isn't as good as last year's, people will start questioning me. Lena stood before the iron bars, her shoulders trembling with harsh breaths, golden hair stiff under the cold light, her fingers gripping the marble windowsill. I still have to answer the reports from the relief districts. Damn it, she didn't appear at the banquet, and I had nowhere to vent all my anger. And now she actually dares. That lowly green-eyed girl actually received a proposal from the Archduke. That position should have been mine. Princess, you possess a precious treasure, so there's no need to worry. That man will eventually kneel before you. She suddenly turned around and demanded sharply, when exactly is Lady Madeline coming? Bring Madeline to me. The attendant knelt on the stone floor and responded trembling, as you command, your highness. Olivia pushed the door open. I'm here. Lena suddenly leaned forward. Olivia spoke expressionlessly. The necklace of Rekari from the Lydial territory in the Principality of Tristan, and the white crystal gold mine. Lena stepped back and let out a shrill cry. Miss, what exactly are you doing? What did the Archduke say to you that made you dare threaten me like this? A faint smile rose at Olivia's lips. So you really do see this as a threat. If you work hard enough, I could even recommend you for a dance with my brother. Don't you want to prove your worth as a candidate for Crown Princess? You only need to pass one small test. If you can manage even a single famine-stricken district. Lena pressed a hand onto the map on the table, her fingertips sliding over the rough paper. What evidence do you have? Kneel and beg for mercy right now. The words of an illegitimate daughter, or the words of a princess with royal blood. Which do you think people will believe? Olivia pulled out a stack of papers from her bosom. These are the records of the private funds I used. While your highness was wasting time at underground auctions searching for the Rekari necklace, I was using my own wealth to restore the territory. Lena snatched the papers away. You dared disobey my orders and secretly keep a second set of books? Those maids watching you reported nothing? Olivia turned her face slightly. This isn't a second set of books. It's my personal account. You were the one who told me I had to use my own money first to handle things. Lena's fingers clenched violently, crumpling the papers in her palm with a harsh tearing sound. These records are the whole truth? Such things could be forged completely. Olivia remained standing calmly. Your Highness, I have no intention of making this public. Lena let out a short gasp. What? Olivia stepped forward. I came here with only one request. Lena stood in the shadows. After threatening me, you still dare make a request of me? Olivia lifted her chin slightly. I need a dowry. Lena violently tore the papers in her hands in half. Absurd. Olivia lowered her head and touched the ribbon at her chest. That's fine. The original document is still in my possession. Lena flung her arm, scattering the shredded paper into the air. Bring her to me at once. Olivia stood amid the fluttering scraps. As long as your highness is willing to provide my dowry. Lena tilted her head, a vicious smile in her blue eyes. And if I refuse? Then you'll say all of this has nothing to do with you, Lena. Lena turned her face, her blue eyes shrinking sharply in the shadows. If that green-eyed girl exposes the accounts, Father's trust will completely collapse. What do you want? Olivia stood at the border of light and shadow. How about the Minari territory? Lena flung her arm, her blue eyes widening with fury. Absurd. How dare you ask for the most prosperous land in my domain? Olivia smiled faintly. Then perhaps the Javier district would be more suitable. Lena stood still, her blue eyes fixed on Olivia. Calm down, Lena. You must choose the most useless place. As long as it can shut that green-eyed brat up. There's one territory that could be used as a dowry. Lena lifted her chin, a twisted smile curling on her lips. Father once said that place might be useful someday. I never thought it would come in handy like this. On the surface, that place is worthless. You know it well. Miss, the white crystal mine. You seemed very interested in it before, didn't you? That is. Lena lowered her head slightly, the smile still on her lips. I don't care about that abandoned mine itself. Even though the mine appears worthless, it appears in secret records that only the royal family has the right to inspect. Lena swung her arm, scattering the papers in her hand into the air. I'm busy enough already. Why should I worry over such trivial matters? As you saw last time, Miss, the vein there was exhausted long ago. It is a completely barren land. Why? Lena suddenly leaned closer, her blue eyes shrinking violently in the shadows, a twisted smile on her lips. Think carefully, Mississippi. The rest of my territories are all very far from Wyken's lands, aren't they? For ease of management, that mine near the northern border is your most convenient choice. Decide quickly, miss. Olivia pressed a hand to the ribbon at her chest, tightening her fingers. Edwin walked through the courtyard. He looked at the figure ahead of him, a smile reflected in his red eyes, a faint flush on his cheeks. "My lady, you've returned. Sorry to keep you waiting. Then let us go. I'll show you around Taya's palace." The two entered the palace side by side. Olivia lifted her chin, her green eyes narrowing in the sunlight as she let out a light laugh. Edwin moved through a sea of white flowers, his black cloak brushing the grass, clouds reflected in his red eyes. "This is the rear garden. I spent a year tending this place. I used to work at Taya's palace before, but it was only a year ago that I gained real authority. From then on, I guarded this place day and night. To gain authority means taking on a special responsibility. It's like a child. I truly think." Edwin smiled. "It's beautiful here." Edwin picked a pink flower, especially this one. "Did you write this sign by hand?" "Igriegagis." I knew it. The handwriting looked very familiar. Olivia fell into thought. Then, a lady-in-waiting stood behind the two of them. "Your Grace, why are you here?" "This is Taya's palace, the residence of the future crown princess. In other words, outsiders should not be entering here." Olivia tilted her head slightly. "I allowed it." The lady-in-waiting froze. "What?" Olivia parted her lips slightly. "That means he is my person. Unless there has been an uninvited guest here before. Who dares question the distinguished guest I personally invited as the mistress of this palace?" The woman froze. "But His Highness the Crown Prince will arrive soon." Olivia walked toward the carriage. "It's getting late. I'll visit again another time." The woman called out urgently. "Miss." Edwin sat in the carriage. "It truly is a marvelous place. If not for that unpleasant interruption, I would have liked to stay a little longer. But it seems, my lady, that victory is already in your hands, isn't it?" Olivia lowered her head to look at her hands, her golden green eyes calm as still water. "Yes, I told you long ago, I have never lost. I believe my lady will make the same choice as well." Olivia pressed a hand to the ribbon at her chest. "Even if you flatter me with words like that, there's still things I cannot show you yet." Olivia lowered her gaze. "At least, not right now. That place is too barren. It can't help anyone and has no value at all as a destination. Before doing anything, it will need a great deal of development." Edwin stood inside the carriage, his black hair swaying with the movement. He laughed brightly. Why would I want to steal my lady's hard-won spoils? Why one is not something material, but something else?" Olivia rested her cheek on one hand, her face flushing. "As long as you ask." Edwin extended his right hand. Perhaps." Edwin smiled, amusement in his red eyes. "Could you try calling me something a little more intimate?" Olivia froze, her green eyes widening in surprise. "What? You always call me your Grace." Edwin narrowed his eyes, smiling. "Why not try saying my name just once? You certainly know it, don't you?" Olivia lowered her head, her green eyes avoiding his. "Of course I know it. To be allowed to share your name is my honor." Olivia's lips moved, her voice nearly inaudible. "Edwin Lolwakant." Edwin tilted his ear, a trace of bloodshot color in his red eyes. "What did you say?" "Your voice was too soft. I couldn't hear it." Edwin raised his right hand. "Why don't you try calling me properly just once?" Olivia turned abruptly, her green eyes trembling with embarrassed irritation. "I already said it just now. I didn't hear you." Edwin approached slowly. "After all, we're about to be married. Calling each other by name is perfectly natural. If you don't do it, things may become even more awkward, don't you think?" The coachman's voice rang out. "Your Grace, there is a carriage stopped in front of the Archduke's residence. You had better confirm it." Edwin looked out the window. A black carriage stood on the stone road, for black horses motionless in the moonlight. The carriage. Edwin stared ahead expressionlessly, his red eyes turning cold. Behind him, Olivia looked puzzled. Edwin suddenly pulled the curtain shut, blocking the view outside. "The moonlight is too bright, and the night wind is cold. It's better to close the curtains." Olivia was enveloped in shadow. "Why so suddenly? Let's go." Olivia lifted her face, her green eyes trembling in the darkness. "Your Grace." "Olivia." Olivia froze in place, her green eyes contracting sharply. "Come out, Olivia." Jed stood outside the window, looking at Olivia with pleading in his violet eyes. "Please." Edwin turned his face slightly, his red eyes locking onto Olivia. "Do you really intend to speak with Sir Jed?" Olivia pressed a hand to her chest. "I intend to drive him away, so he can never return." Edwin lowered his gaze. "Since that is your wish, you really have poor timing, Vice Captain Jed." Jed stood in the moonlight. "Your Grace." "Oli." Edwin bent close to Olivia. "I'll keep my distance. If you need me, call out loudly." Jed watched the scene, his right hand at his side, clenching suddenly. "Why are you treating me like this? Making me look like some thug. Concern like that shouldn't come from an outsider like you. It should come from family, from someone like me." "Fa, Millie." Sweat beaded at Jed's temples. His violet eyes trembled violently as he stared at Olivia. Jed ran a hand through his hair, his silver-white short hair falling apart between his fingers. "What exactly are you doing here? Saying you would erase the name Madeline, and then disappearing completely? Is that really all? Do you know how?" Jed choked on his words. "What was I about to say? Come back. Stop making me worry. Essela was confined because she wanted to see you. Your maid. As well. So come home." Olivia slowly spoke, her hair scattering in the wind. "The territory account books are in the second drawer on the left side of my desk. Essela still can't handle them for now. Have her check them together with Derek, the steward of Baron rank. I will send a letter with a more detailed list. And also, Jed suddenly flung up his arm, fingers spread in the air. Enough. What nonsense are you talking about? Olivia remained expressionless, her green eyes cold. This is a handover. I told you long ago. Edwin stood on the lawn in the distance, watching the two figures with his red eyes. I will not return to Madeline. To avoid trouble in the future, I will make everything clear and transfer it all now. Jed gritted his teeth, anger showing in his violet eyes. Have you lost your mind? Jed suddenly reached out and grabbed Olivia by the shoulders. Jed let go and stepped back, shock filling his violet eyes. What on earth happened to you? You've endured worse than this before. You were always so stubborn. You kept going until now, and yet you're gonna give up over something like this? Over something like this? Sir Jed. Jed suddenly pressed a hand to his chest. Don't call me that. Even you're calling me that now. Olivia, but you're Madeline. Olivia lowered her head to the ground. You said I'd always been stubborn, even cold. Everything I did was only because I was doing my very best for my family. Olivia lowered her eyes. I thought that one day they would notice. One day they would acknowledge my efforts. Jed stood rooted to the spot. Olivia tilted her head slightly, a mournful light in her green eyes. One day they would stand on my side, and then one day they would accept me and treat me as true family. Jed stepped forward half a pace. But now I no longer need any of that. Jed held his breath, his violet eyes full of shock. A faint smile touched Olivia's lips. Because I am about to have a home that truly belongs to me. Edwin stood at the boundary between light and shadow, his red eyes narrowing slightly as he watched the figure ahead. Olivia turned around, her long silver-white hair flying in the wind. So goodbye. Olivia stepped away, her skirt swaying in the sunlight, her silver-white hair drifting in the breeze. Edwin leaned against a stone pillar, waiting. Jed remained standing there. Edwin quickly stepped forward and steadied Olivia by the shoulders. Are you all right? Olivia looked up at Edwin, a soft smile on her lips. I think so. Is it too heavy a burden for you? Of course not, because I feel that I'm finally going to have a home of my own. Olivia reached out and grabbed Edwin's black cloak. Win. Edwin's body went rigid, his red eyes narrowing slightly as he looked at Olivia's face. Olivia lifted her head, a faint light in her green eyes, and softly called his name. Edwin. Edwin lowered his gaze, his red eyes trembling in the shadows, his breathing stalling beneath the moonlight. Olivia tilted her head slightly. What's wrong, Edwin? Edwin snapped back to himself. Edwin raised a hand to the back of his neck, panic flickering in his red eyes. Nothing. I just didn't expect you to call me by my name. Olivia lowered her gaze. You're the one who asked me to call you directly. If you don't like it, I won't call you that anymore. Edwin suddenly reached out and caught Olivia's wrist. Edwin stared at Olivia. Please, keep calling me that. Really? Edwin lowered his head, his red eyes locking onto hers, their breaths tangling at the smallest distance. Olivia's cheeks flushed. You too. The butler stood at the doorway. Aren't you coming inside? It's cold outside. I'm going in now. Olivia lifted her skirt and hurried toward the castle doors, leaving Edwin standing there alone. Edwin covered his face with one hand. I think I'll take a walk first. The air out here is nice and cool. Hannah poked her head out from behind the door. All right. Then we'll escort the young lady inside first. Edwin. Olivia's lips curved softly. What a beautiful name. Edwin. Olivia looked into the mirror, her green eyes full of light. Every time I say this name, I can't help but want to smile. Edwin was crouched beneath a tree in the courtyard, both hands covering his face tightly. I must have looked like an idiot just now. Edwin lowered his hands, revealing his burning cheeks through his fingers. That voice echoed in his ears. Edwin. Leaning against the tree trunk, he covered his face tightly, his chest rising and falling violently. Edwin looked up at the castle tower, the firelight from the window reflected in his red eyes, a smile curling his lips. Olivia. Leopold lay on a velvet bed. Your Highness, you seem distracted today. Though you are beside me, your heart has drifted far away. Leopold reached out and caressed the other's cheek. Sorry, Maria. Some things have become complicated. Maria lifted her face, doubt in her eyes. Is it because of Lady Olivia? Leopold sat up. Yes. Last Wednesday, she seems to have seen us together. Leopold lowered his head and opened a wooden box, lifting a cigar between his fingers. So she canceled our plan on her own. Maria clutched the white shell pendant at her chest. Your Highness, does that mean she thinks you and I? Leopold wrapped his arms around Maria from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. Don't worry, Maria. I will take care of everything. If anyone is at fault, it's her for daring to break the plan. Leopold pulled on a white shirt. That easy woman has actually started, making things troublesome. Besides, every word she says to me is so timid. Maria, you know that, don't you? Maria lifted her face, her blue eyes fixed on Leopold, a complicated light in her gaze. Olivia sat at a long table, her green eyes resting on the teacup before her. Steam rose into the air, blurring her face. A maid walked behind Olivia, bent down, and reminded her in a low voice, Miss, it's time to go to the rear garden. Olivia rose slowly, a faint smile on her lips. His Highness won't be coming for a while. Even so, my lady, are you really planning to make me wait until the very last moment? A guard pushed open the doors. Long live the Empire's little son. Olivia rose and curtsied, lifting her skirt with both hands. Long live the Empire's little Sunday. Why so formal? Is it because you're sorry for leaving early yesterday? Olivia turned slightly, her golden green eyes hidden in shadow. About our engagement. Leopold stood before her. Before I end everything, I came to see you one last time. Leopold smiled, his fingertips touching his lips, a gleam flickering in his blue eyes. Then he threw back his head and laughed loudly, the sound echoing through the empty hall. Olivia stood quietly, her green eyes fixed on the laughing man, her face utterly unmoved. Leopold stopped laughing. Why not just be honest? You're only doing this because you're jealous of Maria. Olivia lowered her gaze. At this point, is that really the only thing you have to say? I don't even expect your apology. I only ask that you preserve even the slightest shred of decency as a human being. Were you expecting me to ask you out? Fine then, we'll go out together. Olivia lowered her green eyes without a ripple of emotion. Leopold walked over to the sofa. Then you'll stop, won't you? Stop clinging to that archduke. Reclining on the couch with his legs crossed, Leopold looked lazily at the woman still standing there with his blue eyes. Olivia, Leopold let out a light laugh. Yes, Olivia, it's good to see you being obedient. You want to break off the engagement? Do you really believe in that archduke? 19. How naive. Leopold picked up his teacup, the bottom clicking sharply against the saucer. Olivia turned her face slightly, her silver white hair falling over her cheek. I'm already 20, Your Highness. Leopold raised the cup and paused it by his lips, closing his eyes with a sound of surprise. Really? You're already 20? Leopold suddenly opened his eyes, his blue pupils tightening. Olivia covered her mouth and laughed softly. Leopold's face sank into shadow, his blue eyes flashing in the dark, his gaze turning cold. From the age of 9, I had already given you my whole heart, until I received your proposal. No, more precisely, until just now. Leopold looked away, a faint smile on his lips, and let out a short laugh. Laughing to yourself in front of others. Where have your manners gone, my lady? Olivia stopped walking, her green eyes cast over her shoulder. Speaking of poor manners, I think those words apply equally to you, Your Highness. What nonsense are you talking about? Olivia sat beside the round table. Wasn't it you who brought Miss Maria into the palace without my consent? Leopold sat on the long couch, shock flickering in his blue eyes. What did you say, my lady? Are you accusing me now? Olivia lifted the teapot. I only mentioned it because I thought you appreciated honesty more. Leopold slammed his palm against the table. Enough, Olivia. Stop this unreasonable behavior of yours. Leopold bent close to her ear, light glittering in his blue eyes. Before I truly decide to break the engagement, you'd better know when to stop. I'm leaving for today. Reflect carefully on your reckless behavior. I've said more than enough. You should understand your position. After all, you used to be so obsessed with this engagement. Olivia lifted her teacup. The engagement will be dissolved. Leopold leaned in, meaning flickering in his blue eyes. And who decided that? Olivia set down the teacup, her golden green eyes looking straight ahead. You and I, Your Highness. After all, you already have someone you wish to make empress. I know very well where I stand. After all, Your Highness, you already have someone you wish to make empress. I know very well where I stand. I knew this was the truth all along. Leopold sprang to his feet. Your jealousy is going too far, my lady. Were you eavesdropping? Olivia remained seated, her golden eyes calm and unreadable. Eavesdropping? Leopold lowered his gaze and glared down at her. In that brief time just now, in this Taya's palace that was supposedly mine, Your Highness was the one secretly meeting with Lady Maria. Leopold suddenly rose, blue eyes burning with anger. My lady. Olivia sat on the bench, her green eyes narrowing slightly as she watched Leopold approach. She leaned back, and then a hand abruptly cut in between them. Edwin stepped in front of Olivia, blocking Leopold's path, his red eyes fixed on him coldly. Crown Prince Leopold, stop there. What is the meaning of this rudeness? How dare you behave so recklessly in the Crown Princess's palace? Olivia rose to her feet. I invited him here. Olivia lifted a hand to her chest. Your Highness, is this not the palace you granted me? I have the right to exercise my authority here. I already told you that I wish to dissolve our engagement. Next, I intend to seek an audience with His Majesty. I once believed this place belonged to me, but it does not after all. So, this will be the last time I make use of the rights that were given to me in order to bring this dreamlike time to an end. I believe this is the most fitting choice. Olivia turned away. Then that is all. Leopold clenched his teeth and roared. Stop right there. Olivia halted, lightly touching her lips with her fingertips. Ah, I almost forgot my luggage. Olivia gave a slight curtsy. Crown Prince Leopold of the Empire. The next time we meet, I will greet you as the future Archduchess of Wakand. Until then, please take care. Leopold stood frozen in place, his blue eyes contracting violently. The first time I met him, I was 9. When I was 14, I failed to hand him the handkerchief. When he left for war for the first time, at 18, I was certain the first dance of my coming-of-age ceremony would belong to him. At 20, I never once doubted that this palace belonged to me. My fiancé was confessing his love to another woman. The heavy wooden door slammed shut with a dull, resounding boom. Olivia stopped walking. Did my back look all right just now? Edwin tilted his head. You're back. Olivia lowered her head. It's the first time I've ever turned my back on someone and walked away. It feels strange. Edwin looked at her. It was magnificent, as always. Edwin took a step forward in his boots. When I'm with you, that feeling only grows stronger. Edwin bent his arm, and Olivia slipped hers through it. The two walked side by side toward the end of the hall. Sunlight streamed through the towering windows, spilling across their retreating figures. A middle-aged man stood before the palace. His Majesty is currently occupied with urgent state affairs. He has ordered that no one may enter. We've already waited 3 hours. Edwin stared straight into the attendant's eyes, the pressure in his red gaze unmistakable. Go confirm it with His Majesty again. Tell him the Archduke of Wakand has come to claim the wish he was promised. The attendant lowered his head, avoiding that severe gaze. I will confirm it again. Olivia looked at Edwin. Should we come back later? To be honest, I'm a little tired. Edwin turned to her, his red eyes resting on Olivia. If that's what you want, then we'll leave. Guests were gathered in the hall, staring at the pair walking side by side. Why are they together? Is she really going to marry the Archduke? Then what will happen to the Crown Prince? The Madeline family still has another daughter. There's no other choice. The Archduke has already left. The Emperor clenched his fingers. That bastard. I thought he brought back Elleruten in order to obtain the Whitewater gold mine. I even handed the mining rights over to the princess. Grinding his teeth, the Emperor fixed his blue eyes straight ahead. That sly fox tricked a promise out of me, all just to propose to Olivia. That child carries Madeline blood too. If all he wants is status and advantage, she's perfect as crown princess. The Duke bowed deeply. The loyalty of House Madeline will forever belong to you, Your Majesty. Olivia's eyes widened, her green pupils trembling violently as her breath caught. That mad dog dares bare his fangs at me. He not only wants to destroy the Duke's loyalty, he dares behave this insolently. The Empress laid a hand on the Emperor's shoulder. Your Majesty, what troubles you? The Empress leaned close to his ear. Don't let your worries ruin your handsome face. The Emperor looked ahead. The Archduke came earlier. He asked me to permit him to marry that young lady. The Empress covered the corner of her mouth. How shameless of him. Indeed. But the wish was granted in my name, so refusing him will not be easy. The Emperor shut his eyes tightly, pressing his fingers to his temple. But if I approve it, what will Duke Madeline think? Tilting her head, the Empress said, why not handle it according to precedent? The Emperor opened his eyes, blue with puzzlement. Precedent. According to ancient records, in order to clarify the line of succession, a woman once engaged to the royal family may not marry another noble within 1 year. The Empress smiled. So approve the engagement on the condition of a 1-year grace period. That young lady who loves old texts so much will surely agree to it. The Emperor's lips curved upward. 1 year is enough. Enough time for me to devise a perfect plan, whether it is restoring the eldest daughter to her place or making the second daughter crown princess. If he seems sincere, then returning the eldest daughter is the best option. Standing before the desk, the Empress watched the Emperor's back. Your Majesty, there's one thing I'm curious about. Sitting in his armchair, he said, what is it? The Empress stepped closer. Did that young lady also accept the Archduke's proposal? The Emperor fell silent. Yes, apparently, that young lady likes the Crown Prince. The Emperor raised his wineglass. How fortunate I am to have someone as clever as my Empress by my side. Another excellent reason to attack the Archduke has just appeared before me. The Empress dipped her head slightly. You flatter me, Your Majesty. Your son will face the same fate as his father. When that handsome face twists in despair, I truly look forward to it, Your Majesty. Empress. The Empress's eyes flew wide open. What did you say? That young lady asked to dissolve the engagement. The Empress ground her teeth, her golden eyes brimming with fury. As expected of that low-born half-breed, she could only make such a shallow choice. She keeps claiming she was sincere, yet she is so false. Shameless, vulgar, and base. There must be no 1-year grace period. The Empress spun around sharply, her red gown sweeping through the corridor. I must see His Majesty at once and demand that the fiancée be replaced with a younger daughter in the capital. Let the Duke watch that innocent face wither and die. Crown Prince. Leopold stopped in his tracks. Mother, what brings you here? The Empress strode toward him, anger blazing in her golden eyes. I heard that half-breed girl dared show you disrespect. I was originally going to ask His Majesty for a 1-year grace period, but now it seems that is no longer necessary. Lowering her voice, the Empress's golden eyes gleamed venomously. Crown Prince, abandon Olivia at once and appoint Essela as crown princess instead. A 1-year grace period? The Empress nodded. That's right. To clarify the order of succession, a woman once engaged to the royal family may not remarry for 1 year. Though that woman of humble birth is somewhat capable, I had intended to give her a chance. The corners of Leopold's mouth lifted faintly. I approve of that grace period. The Empress's eyes widened abruptly, shock flooding her golden gaze. Crown Prince, what are you saying? Leopold lowered his arm. It's all right, Mother. I know Olivia Madeline well. Leopold turned away, a cruel smile flickering in his blue eyes. She's a compliant person. She'll accept this arrangement. Olivia Madeline, for the sake of balancing the royal house and the noble faction, during this one-year grace period, I wish to have Maria Eder bear the title of my fiancée. What do you think? This dress has a tulip theme. This one is lilies. This one was designed to emphasize the jeweled neckline. Are there any other dresses? The tailor bowed and presented a heavy catalog with both hands. Yes, Your Highness. These are the newest designs. Edwin raised a hand, his fingertips brushing his chin as he watched Olivia's face. What is it, my lady? Olivia frowned slightly, displeasure showing in her green eyes. Don't you think this is a bit excessive? My lady, I think we need some fresh tea. The tailor clasped her hands together. Certainly, I'll prepare some at once. Please take your time browsing. Olivia clenched her fist and abruptly pointed at the row of gowns behind them. That's already the 15th one. Edwin let out a soft laugh. When I said I would give you a gift, you insisted on choosing the very best. Olivia lowered her gaze, her green eyes dipping away from his. That's because Edwin's smile faded. I asked what you liked, but you weren't listening at all. Olivia lowered her head in silence. The tailor has probably gone there already. Edwin closed his eyes, his cheeks flushing as he let out a quiet chuckle. I can't even get angry with you. Olivia looked at him. Why do you look so pleased? Her green eyes were apologetic. Because. I really am sorry. I didn't mean to be distracted. There's just been something else on my mind the whole time. Before I left the Duke's estate, I ordered a dress for my younger sister at this shop. I just happened to think of it. A gentle warmth entered Edwin's red eyes as he smiled faintly. You seem to care very much about your sister. Olivia turned slightly, hesitation filling her green eyes. Then, could you pay a little more attention to me right now? Look, when you keep ignoring me, I really do start to get upset. But a single word from you makes every unpleasant feeling vanish. Olivia's eyes widened sharply, his figure reflected in her green gaze as her breath caught. Come to think of it, you've never called me by my name, Edwin. Edwin lowered his head, awkwardness showing in his red eyes, the tips of his ears turning red. That's because you never permitted me to address you directly by name, and you never asked me to. Olivia stood frozen, confusion in her green eyes, fingertips brushing her lips as she looked at the man before her. Olivia lowered her gaze, her cheeks blooming pink. You can call me by my name directly. It's all right. Edwin raised his right hand. I can't do that. I told you before. Edwin took her hand, determination filling his red eyes. For you, I would do anything. In other words, if you don't tell me what you want, there's nothing I can do. Olivia lowered her eyes. It's just that. No one has ever asked my permission to call me by my name before. In my view, Edwin said, looking at her with smiling eyes, you now have something you want as well. Olivia parted her lips slightly and gazed at Edwin's face. I want you to call me by my name too, Edwin. And I want you to say it as if I were a treasure. Edwin looked at Olivia, deep feeling reflected in his red eyes, a curve rising on his lips. Olivia, what a beautiful name. I wanted to call you that for a long time. Olivia smiled with closed lips. Edwin is a lovely name too. His fingertips trembled slightly. My name. Olivia raised both hands, pressing her index fingers to the corners of her mouth and lifting them. It's a name that makes people feel happy just by saying it. Edwin, every time I say your name, the corners of my mouth rise like this. Edwin stood frozen, his red eyes narrowing slightly as his face instantly flushed scarlet while he looked at the smiling woman before him. He covered his burning cheeks with both hands. We still need shoes. And jewelry. What do you mean? Just the clothes we ordered today. We'll already fill your wardrobe. Edwin quickly walked toward the boxes of shoes and jewelry. Shoes and jewelry are packed separately. The only dowry I have is an abandoned mine. I really can't accept this many things. Olivia looked down at the black dress clasped at her chest. I do have jewelry. That pink diamond necklace. It's still there, but you haven't worn it once since the last banquet. Olivia lowered her gaze. Her fingertips brushed her lips. That necklace. Edwin reached out and lifted her chin. Why is it that whenever you think of your sister, your eyes fill with sadness? Olivia closed her eyes and let his fingertips brush the corners of them. Just as you said, I am full of sadness. If only she had listened to that one sentence back then. I didn't do anything. Is it because I always said next time that Ursula refused to hear my explanation? Tea parties, cafes, a debut in society, every place she wanted to go. Even so, I still hate the words she said. Did mother really die because of you, sister? Edwin turned his body slightly. Then she must really hate seeing you. Olivia lowered her head and looked at her hands. I'm hurt. I am sad. Maybe I truly did hate her, but I still want to see her. Edwin looked at Olivia, something thoughtful in his red eyes. House Madeline seems remarkably fortunate, and among them, the second young lady is the luckiest of all. This young lady has already arrived at the estate. She is looking for Olivia. Rain lashed the stone walls of the old castle. Thunder rolled deep within the clouds, and water poured from the eaves. Ursula, wrapped in a black cloak, stared at the guard with wide purple eyes. Ursula Madeline, could you tell my sister I'm here? The guard looked down at the small figure before him. Do I really need to report this to Lady Olivia? You came all this way, and she's a kind lady, so she would probably agree to see you. Then why? The guard looked down at Essela. Even knowing that, you still came here without hesitation. Essela looked up sharply, her purple eyes shrinking. I never thought about any of this. Does this knight care more about my sister than I do? More than her own family? He said if you could promise not to expect anything, then you may enter. Essela clutched her white skirt, her fingertips creasing the fabric. Don't expect anything. That was the promise I made in order to come in. So, candlelight flickered against the walls. The hand of the clock ticked on. Maybe it would be better if she didn't come. The only thing I can say is I'm sorry. I never should have said those things to her. I blamed her for Mother's death, even though I knew how Father and my brothers mistreated her. I did nothing. I made my sister, who had been afraid of ghosts since she was 8, live in the attic. I knew she would be scolded, yet I still dragged her out to play with me. Olivia turned around, her silver white hair moving in the wind. How did she smile back then? No, how was she able to smile at all? An apology this cheap is nowhere near enough. I should come another time. I need to write a proper letter, not stand here like this. Essela turned around abruptly, her wide purple eyes fixed on the approaching figure. Sister. Olivia stopped walking and looked at the girl before her. Essela stepped forward. Sister, do you know? There's so many things I want to apologize to you for. And I'm sorry for suddenly coming to you like this. Essela lowered her head and looked at her hands. I came to apologize. I am sorry. I shouldn't have shown up like this. No matter how I think about it, I should never have said those things to you. I shouldn't have stood by coldly and watched Father and my brothers treat you that way. You shouldn't have suffered in that palace in my place. You shouldn't have been left alone on the 4th floor in that terrifying attic. Essela raised her face, tears welling in her round purple eyes as she looked at her sister. Olivia smiled, a gentle light in her green eyes. Essela's tears spilled over. Sister, I'm so sorry. I really am so. Olivia flicked a finger and tapped Essela lightly on the forehead with a crisp sound. Essela covered her forehead, confusion filling her round purple eyes as she stared at Olivia. The way you say it makes it sound as though it was truly all your fault, Essela. Olivia opened her arms and pulled Essela into a sudden embrace. But aside from those things, everything else was my fault. That was not your fault, Essela. You did nothing wrong. Olivia let go and looked at Essela's face. Truly, none of this was your fault. Outside the window, the thunder had faded and the greenery swayed in the rain. A knock sounded at the door, followed by a maid's voice from outside. My lady, the young Duke of Madeline has arrived at the front gate. Oh my, look at the time. You should be going now, shouldn't you? Essela stopped, her round purple eyes fixed on Olivia. Sister. Olivia tilted her head slightly as she looked at Essela. Essela twisted her fingertips together. Are you not planning to return to Madeline territory? Olivia took something from inside her clothes. Essela, isn't this yours? Essela's eyes flew wide open, her purple pupils trembling violently as she stared at the necklace in Olivia's hand. The red gemstone shimmered in the light. Could you help me put on? Olivia turned around, a smile in her green eyes. Of course. Lowering her gaze, Olivia looked at the scratches on the necklace. It's damaged. Do you want me to replace it with a new one? I have another exactly like it. Essela took the necklace. It's fine. This is proof of what I've done. It's the regret I have to bear alone. So, I like it better the way it is now. Night fell over the estate. A dark blue carriage stood at the front gate. Conrad sat deep inside it, gazing blankly out the window. Essela lowered her head to look at her neck and shoulders, fingertips brushing the ruby. Her silver white hair spilled over them. Olivia stood behind her, both hands resting on Essela's shoulders. This is the exact opposite of last time. Back then, you were the one who fastened it for me. Essela, oh dear, are you crying? Essela lowered her head in silence, her round purple eyes filling with tears. Essela gripped her skirt so hard her fingertips dug into the fabric. But sister, I'm still your younger sister, aren't I? Olivia stood behind her, looking down at the top of Essela's head. Of course. Essela lifted her face, her wide purple eyes opening slightly. That selfish Essela Madeline. Even at the very end, you're still like this. Even without the name Madeline, we are still sisters. Olivia cupped Essela's face and looked into those tear-filled eyes, her fingertips brushing away the tears that fell. Conrad stepped forward, his black shoes striking the stone floor. Essela tightened her grip on her skirt, her round purple eyes staring ahead. I'm certain Father told you not to come here. Conrad turned his face, his silver white short hair shading his brow as his purple eyes locked onto Essela. If Father finds out, your punishment will not end with confinement. Essela lowered her eyes. But I had to come. Conrad leaned forward sharply, his silver white hair slightly disheveled, meaning glinting in his purple eyes. What? Essela straightened her back. I had to apologize to her. Conrad shot to his feet with a furious shout. Essela froze where she stood. You could have gone to bring her back. You could have worried about her the way you worry about me now. Why have you never treated her that well? Not even a little. If you had shown her even the slightest kindness, perhaps things would not have turned out like this. Conrad lifted his right hand, spreading his fingers over his face as he let out a heavy sigh. Essela, I don't know what's going on in your head, but she did nothing. Conrad covered his face, his purple eyes trembling in shadow. What did you say? From the moment she arrived, our happiness was shattered. Mother died. Father buried himself in work, staring into his cold office. Jed wandered from battlefield to battlefield, running from one war to the next. Conrad clenched his teeth. And yet you still dare say that girl did nothing? It seems the only person in the Madeline family who never misses a chance is you, Lady Essela. Conrad lowered his head in silence. Night blanketed the old castle, its spires piercing upward as the deep blue sky watched over the quiet estate. Edwin stood at the edge of the terrace, his red eyes following the carriage as it departed. Olivia stood beside him. Edwin spread his hands. At this rate, the gates of the Archduke's estate are about to become a gathering place for the Madeline family. Olivia blinked her green eyes, the faces of Conrad and Jed surfacing in her mind. Olivia lowered her head, the corners of her lips lifting faintly. That's true. Edwin turned and studied her expression. Are you all right? Olivia looked at him, puzzled in her green eyes. What do you mean? Is it because the young Duke came to take Essela back? I'm Fine, because now, whenever I leave Edwin, you always come to take me back. Olivia turned and looked at Edwin's face. Anytime, anywhere. Edwin's lips curved slightly. What am I supposed to do with you, Olivia? Olivia tilted her head as she looked at him. About what? Edwin stepped closer. You can shake me so easily. He wrapped an arm around Olivia's waist and drew her into his embrace. And I have no choice but to let myself be completely captured by you. All right, now shall we discuss that 1-year grace period? That was His Majesty's decree. Within that 1 year, you must either restore the eldest daughter to her place or appoint the second daughter as crown princess. Murmurs broke out through the crowd. An elderly noble spread his hands. That is indeed the principle. The Duke surely cannot bear to give up the second daughter, since she is his favorite child. But will the eldest daughter come back? Who knows? After all, she used to be so obsessed with His Highness. Seated high above, the Emperor watched the noisy crowd below, with deep blue eyes, his hands clasped beneath his chin. Maria, I will choose you as my fiancée. Maria covered her mouth, delight filling her round blue eyes. Leopold. Maria suddenly threw herself into his arms, and Leopold pressed a hand to the top of her head. Huh? Are you really that happy? Of course. I've dreamed of this day for so long. Maria clung tightly to Leopold's chest. Since you're so happy, then during this year, you can fulfill the duties of a fiancé, can't you? Maria stiffened, her round blue eyes shrinking violently. Your Highness, what do you mean? Leopold released his arms. This is only during Olivia's 1-year grace period. Do you want to become my mistress? You are to play the role of my fiancé. You can handle that, can't you, Maria? Olivia held a bouquet. Are you sure you don't need to go to the palace? Edwin sat in an armchair. They won't open the doors for us anyway. I sent a letter saying I would go tomorrow afternoon to request permission to marry, so we'll go tomorrow afternoon. Olivia lowered her eyes. Tomorrow morning. Every Monday morning, there's a nobles' council meeting. Why doesn't Edwin attend? Edwin suddenly leaned closer. Why are you staring at me? You're making my heart race. Olivia shrank back slightly, her green eyes widening in surprise. I was just wondering why you don't attend the Nobles' Council. The Nobles' Council was a mandatory gathering for all high-ranking nobles. But Archduke Edwin had never once attended. I used to be at war, but the war is over now. Olivia widened her eyes. Since you're so clever, why don't you give me some advice? Do you want me to attend the Nobles' Council? Olivia lowered her head, avoiding his gaze. I was only curious. Please don't mind me. Edwin stepped forward and took her fingertips in his hand. Come now, tell me. If I attend the Nobles' Council, what can Weycan gain from it? Olivia pressed her lips together. You could openly discuss the issue of mining taxes. You already handed all the spoils of war over to His Majesty. That's true. I never thought about taxes. Weycan is already wealthy enough. Edwin's lips curled upward. Unless Olivia's expenses become even more extravagant. How did you know I was worried about the Archduke's taxes? Is it because I restrained myself and only bought 15 dresses? Olivia turned to watch Edwin's reaction. And those shoes as well. Edwin threw back his head and laughed, his red eyes narrowing into slits. In that case, things are entirely different. It seems I'll have to attend at least once. He listened to my advice. He actually listened to me. Edwin walked out the door. So we're going back for the rest of the shoes too, right? Olivia hurried after him. Wait, Edwin, are you really going to attend the Nobles' Council? Yes. I'll probably start formally next Monday. This afternoon is only for meeting His Majesty. Come to think of it, I don't like all the money we worked so hard to save ending up in the Emperor's pocket. The adjutant spread his hands as he looked at Edwin. This decision may take us one step farther from the White Crystal Mine. Fastening his collar, Edwin looked at the adjutant. Investigate the princess again. Keep watching the mine, while also tracking the princess's movements. The royal family will never acknowledge its true value. The butler hurried into the room with a letter in hand. Your Grace, a letter has arrived from the palace. You have been summoned to tomorrow morning's meeting. The letter says the marriage will be discussed tomorrow. Olivia turned sharply, her green eyes trembling with surprise. A morning meeting? There's less than an hour before it begins. Edwin, hurry and get ready. What if we're late? Olivia, doesn't it usually take you quite a long time to get ready? Don't worry. What if we are late? Edwin leaned close and looked into Olivia's eyes. If we're late, that's the Emperor's fault. He sent the notice too late. He did it on purpose. The main characters always make their entrance last. Olivia, let's eat breakfast first, then get ready. You have to be full first. All right, Breakfast first, then we prepare. Edwin caught the moment at his fingertips. Beneath his black hair, his red eyes narrowed. As expected of my girl, he's still not here. I only sent the notice an hour ago. Of course he's not here yet. How amusing. Seated high above, the Emperor's blue eyes were cold. He said he wished to speak with that young lady before today's meeting. It seems the discussion did not go well. The Duke stood beside the long table. Forgive me, Your Majesty. It seems Lady Madeline has grown somewhat too full of herself. Marquis spread his hands. Rumors have already spread that she is being improperly kept at the Archduke's residence. And now she is late to a meeting personally convened by Your Majesty. What a laughable situation. Such arrogance. That is why the noble faction is useless. Just as I expected, the eldest daughter of House Madeline is the perfect candidate for Crown Princess. The noble faction can only attack her for being illegitimate, and she's the only person who could lend the strength of House Madeline to the Emperor's faction. At the same time, she is the woman Edwin desires. Leaning back on his throne, the Emperor looked at the officials below. Then let us postpone the discussion of the one-year delay. The meeting will now begin. An official unfurled scroll. Yes, Your Majesty. First on the agenda is next month's treaty with the defeated nation of Heptardy. The Emperor's lips curved upward. He sent dozens of letters demanding that this marriage be discussed. I really want to see the look on his face when he barges in expecting my approval. I want to reject the request for a one-year postponement to his face and see that expression. In the council chamber, the reader's voice echoed. Next agenda item is, His Grace the Archduke may have been too busy with state affairs to keep track of time, but the young lady with him should at least have arrived punctually. Marquis Eder turned his face and addressed the nobles seated around him. Lady Eder would never commit such discourtesy. The Emperor, seated high above, folded his hands over his face. Silence. Everyone remained quiet. Edwin extended his hand, and their palms overlapped. Edwin strode into the hall, Olivia at his side. We offer our respects to the Empire's most exalted son. The Emperor leaned back, his blue eyes cold beneath his golden hair. You were late. I was waiting for you when the meeting began, yet you only appear now. That is true. The summons from Your Majesty reached me only a few minutes ago. Edwin closed his eyes and smiled lightly. I'm sure Your Majesty did not delay sending it on purpose, so I trust you understand. Olivia, her silver white hair falling to her waist, stared calmly ahead with green eyes. The Duke's eyes widened abruptly as he looked at Olivia, his pupils trembling. The Emperor looked down at the Archduke below. Are you blaming me now? Edwin smiled. Of course not. I was merely late to my first meeting. I'm only asking that next time, the notice be sent properly so I can attend the next one on time. The Emperor lurched forward. The next one? I deliberately kept him from attending the meetings to prevent him from building his own faction. I summoned him only to humiliate this marriage. That cunning bastard. The Emperor folded his arms, his blue eyes icy. I cannot have the overworked Archduke attend every meeting. The war is over. There is nothing to be busy with anymore. As head of House Waykand, I will remain by Your Majesty's side and protect you. The Emperor leaned forward. I doubt attending the Nobles' Council is what you truly desire. If you continue being so insolent, then your engagement to that young lady and the Whitewater gold mine. Edwin closed his eyes and smiled. I think it would be better to begin with my official duties. For example, the negotiations with Heptardy. Olivia stood in the center of the hall. So this was the surprise he meant. Edwin had turned to her earlier. I couldn't tell you in advance, but you may be surprised once you go in. The Emperor had actually been preventing the Archduke from attending the meetings. Was there really any need for such caution? If not, then there had to be some deeper reason. We will discuss that matter in due course. The final item on today's agenda is the marriage of the Archduke and Lady Madeline. As you wished, I will approve your engagement to this young lady. However, you must follow proper custom. The Emperor's blue eyes gleamed darkly. A woman who has had a marital bond with the royal family cannot immediately form ties with another noble. 1 year must pass first. Lady, are you aware of this custom? Olivia straightened. Yes, I am aware. Edwin turned to look at Olivia. Olivia stared straight ahead. I'm also well aware of how this rule can be maliciously exploited. The Emperor leaned back, a cold smile in his blue eyes beneath his golden hair. Since I promised to fulfill your wish through a royal decree, I will approve it. But you must strictly observe the 1-year grace period. He would never want to give up his precious second daughter, so he had no choice but to restore the eldest daughter to her place within a year. Olivia bowed slightly. Thank you for Your Majesty's grace. The Emperor's eyes widened abruptly. Olivia raised her head. As it happens, I was also planning to spend a year preparing for the wedding. As your publicly issued decree states, we will hold a lawful wedding 1 year from now. The Emperor sat frozen. She was accepting it so readily? Edwin's lips curved upward. What a pity I cannot make my lady an archduchess sooner. He lifted Olivia's hand. Thanks to Your Majesty's benevolence, we may now prepare for a perfect wedding. Marquis Eder let out a derisive laugh. I heard that the young lady is well versed in ancient books. It seems you do not entirely understand the meaning of this 1-year grace period. Since you do not understand its importance, allow me to explain it in detail. I understand your excitement over marrying the Archduke, but if you fail to understand the purpose of this period, I worry it may affect your future chastity. As a father who also has has a daughter. I say this out of concern and hope you will accept it graciously. The continuation of the royal bloodline is of supreme importance. It may be somewhat presumptuous to say this before the Archduke, but this young lady lived as the Crown Prince's fiancée for a full 11 years. If no feelings at all developed during that time, would that not be a problem? If you understand the meaning of this 1-year grace period, then instead of rushing to prepare a wedding, you should be more concerned with your own conduct, lest the purity of the royal bloodline come under suspicion. Olivia smiled faintly. It has already been 11 years since my engagement to the Crown Prince. Marquis Hector. Olivia turned, her green eyes gleaming. I am very grateful for your fatherly concern. I will remember your words. Therefore, I must also ask that you give Lady Eder the same advice. Marquis Eder's eyes widened sharply. What? Olivia tilted her head. If an engagement maintained for 11 years can be broken, then should not Lady Eder, who is merely a companion, be even more cautious with her words and actions? Lady, mind your language. Maria is already the intended fiancée. The Emperor shouted, Marquis, then all the more reason to warn her. No one knows what accident may befall an engagement. We must prevent any rumors from spreading about Lady Maria, must we not? Marquis Eder narrowed his eyes, bloodshot blue visible within them. I had no idea your majesty had made such complete preparations for the Crown Prince's fiancée. Olivia lifted her skirt in a formal gesture. Thank you for your grace. Thanks to it, I can now prepare for my wedding to the Archduke with a much lighter heart. The Emperor turned his face aside, his blue eyes contracting violently. He clenched his teeth so tightly they ground together. This meeting is over. Everyone, leave at once. The Emperor slashed his arm through the air and roared. I said get out. The Emperor turned to the attendant waiting by the door. You, come here. Bring the princess to my studio. There are some things I must verify myself. Rena held a teacup. What did you say? You are ordering me to investigate that abandoned mine again. With his back to Rena, the Emperor looked out at the garden beyond the window. Yes, investigate it thoroughly and report back to me. The previous report claimed there was nothing unusual there. Rena tightened her grip on the teacup. That is correct, your majesty. The Emperor turned his head. Did the mages have nothing to say about the flashes in the 7th mine shaft? Rena stood frozen. The 7th shaft? There were flashes in that abandoned mine. The report that Half-Breed submitted was a complete mess. The Emperor tapped the tabletop with his fingertips. Why did you take so long to answer? This is urgent, Edwin. Hold out your right hand. It really is a perfect day. My lady, you should be happy about this perfect victory. Just as you said, I should be heading to the Nobles' Council now, Olivia. She gazed up at the castle spires, her eyes clouded with melancholy. Edwin turned his face to her. You have already received permission to marry. You can go to the territory and begin preparing for the wedding. So why do you look so gloomy? Olivia lowered her head and murmured, gloomy? It's not because of that. I'm just so happy it feels as if I've been enchanted. Edwin tilted his head. Enchanted? Isn't that the kind of magic you sometimes see at the Imperial Palace? Olivia, have you seen magic before? Olivia suddenly waved her arm. No, that's just an expression. She turned her face away. Come to think of it, where did Lord Colt go? He hurried off a moment ago. Edwin pressed a hand to his chest. While I'm standing right here, you're looking for Winstead. Olivia hunched her shoulders. That's not what I meant. Edwin reached out and took her wrist. Are you feeling better now? I was just upset. You should have told me. Olivia and Edwin stood side by side. Olivia lowered her eyes. So that was it. The reason you couldn't attend the council all this time wasn't because you didn't want to go. Foolish Olivia. I never even realized. The sharp-eyed nobles must have all noticed that the Emperor despises Edwin. Once he starts attending the council, rumors will spread quickly. Olivia turned her head. I'm grateful for everything you've done for me, but if it's not what you want, then don't do it anymore. That's what I want too. Edwin turned toward her, Olivia's reflection shining in his red eyes. He burst into laughter. Olivia froze. Edwin? Edwin wrapped his arms around Olivia from behind. Olivia, my dear, innocent lady, what am I supposed to do with you when you're this soft-hearted? I thought you'd grown bolder. At this rate, are you going to break our agreement first? Olivia's green eyes widened and her lips parted slightly. What, Edwin? He straightened a little. The truth is, I didn't go to the council before simply because it was a nuisance. It was only because you persuaded me that I decided to start attending. Olivia lowered her head and looked at her toes. But Edwin suddenly leaned in. Did you really think I'd back down just because of the Emperor? Olivia quickly covered his mouth with her hand. Edwin, this isn't the place. Edwin lowered his head and kissed her palm. Olivia. She jerked back. Shameless, Edwin. Throwing his head back, he laughed again. So what? We're gonna be married soon anyway. Edwin raised both hands in surrender. I give up. Before you scold me anymore, I'll go call the carriage. Edwin pressed his index finger to his lips, his red eyes glimmering in the sunset. By the way, do you know what it means to kiss someone's palm? Honestly, Edwin. He hurried away, leaving only a shrinking figure behind. Standing in the evening glow, Olivia stared at the hand he had kissed. Does kissing each part of the body have a different meaning? Come to think of it, that letter. It was a letter from that nameless person. Since the war ended, those letters had never come again. Before leaving for Wakehand, she should send one last letter. This time not under false pretenses, but in Olivia's own name. to thank him for the comfort he had once given her, and to sincerely wish him well. Edwin stood not far away. Olivia. Edwin held out his right hand. Shall we go, Olivia? She placed her hand in Edwin's palm. Yes, Your Majesty, my deepest apologies. I was resting because of a headache, and though I rushed back, I still haven't fully recovered. After a short rest, I will report again. Rena. Her golden eyes flew wide, and she let out an angry shout. Has Count Eubler still not arrived? A maid bowed her head at her side. Your Highness, Count Eubler has taken leave to return home because his wife has childbed fever. Rena whipped her head around. Summon him at once. I said now, why would the Emperor summon me over that abandoned mine? I've already dumped that place on that. Rena's golden eyes widened, bloodshot, as cold sweat slid down her cheeks. Everyone, assemble. From this moment on, all units will be reassigned. Rena stood on the platform, looking down at the square below. Rena kept staring ahead, then at Jed's face. Her pupils shrank sharply. Come to think of it, I still haven't had tea with Lord Madeline. Tea parties are always such a delight. The day that arrogant woman can no longer hold her head up before me. The day that second young lady wears a look of utter ruin. The day she falls into despair. And today, Rena's golden eyes widened and a twisted smile spread across her face. Truly, a perfect day. Go bring Lord Madeline to me on Monday. But now there's no need for that anymore. Why, Olivia? Why haven't you come back yet? I clearly don't want to see her, so why does she keep appearing in my thoughts? Essela pressed a hand to her chest. Was life at the Imperial Palace really that hard for my sister? Was it really only because of the palace? Is that why she never came back? Even when I put frogs on her bed, or locked her out in the rain, or even tore up her favorite book? A young Olivia stood in the light and shadow. Sister. She always smiled and followed after me. One hand rested on Olivia's shoulder. Starting today, Olivia is the Crown Prince's fiancée. No matter what, she is still a daughter of the Madeline family. My brothers and sisters all have jewels in their eyes. Essela has amethysts, and Olivia has emeralds, but she is still my sister. Lord Madeline. Jed turned his head, his gray eyes looking behind him. Her Highness the Princess is summoning you. Jed stood in the ornate room, looking forward. And what was it you just said? Rena raised her left hand, twining a strand of hair around her fingertip. I know perfectly well. You don't care about that bastard either, do you? As a princess, I have tolerated that low-born child until now. And yet she seduced the Archduke who was meant to be mine. Rena lifted her chin. A filthy bastard born of some low woman. What else could one expect from a base-born half-breed? Jed clenched his jaw. How can you use words like that about her? Olivia pressed the back of her hand to the corner of her lips. My lord, are you asking how I know that you hated that half-breed? Weren't you the very first to lead the others in scorning her? Jed stood frozen. No, back then, with Olivia, I only wanted her to suffer, to feel ashamed. Olivia turned around, her green eyes looking back. Maria turned her face toward the man beside her and laughed brightly. Leopold closed his eyes with a faint smile. Olivia stopped walking and looked at Jed. Jed stood in the shadows. I wasn't stubbornly clinging on. I just thought that someday you'd accept me and treat me as real family. But that's no longer necessary now. Jed's eyes flew wide. He sprang to his feet. My lady. Jed hurried away. My lady. Rena seized the hair atop her head with both hands. What is the meaning of this? I meant to lure out his true intentions and take that white crystal gold mine. And he dares do this to me. A princess? Rena clutched her head and screamed. He dared to leave the banquet hall without permission. He dared be so rude to Her Highness the Princess. A woman with long dark brown hair entered. Your Highness, please don't trouble yourself any further. Lord Madeline is not worth wrinkling your noble brow over. Rena lowered her hands. Fine. Even without that man, there will be other chances to find the white crystal mine. The woman with the long dark brown hair stood nearby. Indeed, he was so crude, completely unworthy of the title of war hero. It seems all those so-called war heroes are just barbarians. Your Highness, why not rest a little? The dark-haired woman smiled faintly. I will summon Count Eubler. Dana, didn't you say earlier that you wanted to watch the theater troupe perform? Rena turned her head. A theater troupe? The woman with the dark brown hair straightened. Yes, the troupe you like so much at the Summer Palace. They're waiting for your command. A faint smile rose on Rena's lips. Then I shall rest a little. Let them in. A short, stout man pushed the door open and entered, wearing a black top hat and a red vest. The commoner troop filed into the splendid palace hall behind him. Rena propped her chin on the back of her hand, her golden eyes resting on the performers. She ran her tongue over her red lips and watched the performer before her with greedy eyes. A hand suddenly struck the instrument, and colored confetti whirled through the air. An acrobat tipped back his head and blew an orange-red flame into the sky. The firelight illuminated the palace hall. Seated in an armchair, Rena watched the man beside her with intoxicated eyes. Leaning against his shoulder, she let out a wanton laugh. Bottles were lined neatly on a tray as she gazed at the revelry in the distance. The acrobat flipped beneath the evening sun. Rena glanced up, and the brown-haired man wore a self-satisfied smile. Then his gaze suddenly turned cold. Olivia had fallen sound asleep. Edwin looked at her with a slight smile. Olivia slowly opened her eyes, her green pupils trembling. You're awake? If I fell asleep, you should have woken me. Edwin laughed. You look like you were sleeping very deeply. Unless you wanted me to carry you inside. Olivia drew back. Edwin, have we just been going in circles this whole time? Edwin gave a soft chuckle. Olivia touched her cheek. I've never fallen asleep in front of someone before. Have I really let my guard down that much? My face must be swollen. Next time, you absolutely have to wake me, understand? Edwin looked at Olivia. There'll be a next time? You said you would grant all my wishes. The corners of Edwin's lips rose. He opened his hand. This time I only watched you, but next time I'll wake you. Edwin leaned closer. After that, may I do as I please? Olivia flung up an arm. Absolutely not. Edwin laughed. You don't even know what I want to do. Olivia turned away. Whatever it is, no. And there won't be a next time either. What a pity. I was looking forward to it. Edwin spoke again. Then may I fall asleep in front of you? Olivia, what are you saying? When the sunlight is warm, it's easy to get sleepy in a carriage. Maybe I'll fall asleep before you do. An image rose in Olivia's mind. She shook her head sharply. Then let's promise to wake each other when we arrive. If you sleep too long in a carriage, your body gets stiff. Edwin curved his lips. What if it's not in the carriage? What do you mean? If one of us falls asleep on the sofa while we're having tea, then what? Olivia's voice faltered. Edwin. He leaned closer to her face. Then how about offering the sleeping person a shoulder to lean on? Is our relationship still not close enough for that? Olivia lowered her gaze. Then shall we try it? Did I take his joke seriously? Edwin bent down, his cheeks tinged red. Are you serious? Olivia's eyes widened. Her heart pounded violently. Perhaps it was Edwin, who had originally meant to take things slowly. He lifted her chin. Edwin stepped forward, his boots thudding dully against the floor. He drew the curtain closed. Olivia's eyes widened. Edwin lowered his gaze, his red eyes fixed on her lips. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down, and sweat slid down his cheek. A knock came at the door, breaking the silence. Your Highness, is the young lady awake? Olivia shoved Edwin away and called out loudly. Yes, I'm awake already. Edwin. He lowered his eyes, his fingertips brushing a strand of silver-white hair, pressing it to his lips in a kiss. There will be plenty of chances. Jed stood in the rain. Brother Jed. Jed lifted his head, his violet eyes trembling in the rain. You didn't know either, did you? Conrad remained silent. Know what? Jed's mouth twitched violently as he stared into Conrad's eyes. Olivia. She had been treated like that all this time. Conrad turned his head. What did you hear that made you like this? What exactly did she do? Jed roared in the rain. The princess called her a bastard. Conrad's expression did not change. So? What do you mean, so? Everyone in the palace calls her that. They call Olivia a bastard. Jed pressed a hand to his forehead. So what? Jed froze. I left her there alone precisely to see this result. Did you really not know? Conrad let out a cold laugh. Brother, please. Because of Olivia, this household is already in chaos. If you're done, come inside. Jed gave no response. He turned and walked deeper into the curtain of rain. Conrad spun around. Jed. Jed stripped off his soaking military uniform. Bracing himself against the mirror, he stared at the miserable face reflected there. Jed straightened his white gloves and was putting on a black coat when Brother Jed. Essela stood behind him. Where are you going this late? Jed fastened his collar. To find Olivia. Essela's eyes widened. Sister has already left. Jed whirled around. What did you say? Where did she go? To the Wakan territory? Essela lowered her head and avoided his gaze. I can't tell you. Jed shouted, Essela. Essela stood her ground. You should have done this sooner. Jed stared at her. Essela lifted a hand to her chest. If you had searched for her with me back then. Sister is too kind. Even though I found her so late, she still forgave me. Jed let his hands fall and silence descended. Essela turned her head to look at Jed. So I can't tell you, brother. Essela turned and walked away, disappearing at the end of the corridor. Just for one day, let me keep it from you for just one more day. Olivia held her pen. To Essela, I will be staying in Wakan territory for the time being. If anything happens, send a letter to the Archducal residence. I have already sent Lariette back. There is one thing I want you to tell Jed. Madeline Jed. Everything Olivia wanted to say is contained in that name. Essela lowered her head to look at the letter in her hands. In this house, there are no longer any children of mine. Tear that trash down immediately. Essela ran down the corridor, her footsteps echoing in the empty, narrow hall. Olivia picked up a picture frame. A family portrait was set inside it. Olivia curled up in a corner, staring at the family portrait on the floor. She wrapped her arms tightly around her knees, silver white hair spilling across the ground. She buried her head and looked at the shadows between her knees, clutching her sleeve. Sister, was this the right thing to do? Edwin bent down toward Olivia. What do you want to eat? Edwin held up a sandwich. Ham and cheese sounds good. Arugula with chicken cutlet is nice too. Tomato and veal is fine as well. Or perhaps try the salmon. Olivia looked up. Is this really all right? Edwin stopped moving. What do you mean, all right? Olivia lowered her eyes. It takes 3 days to reach Wakan territory, but this looks exactly like a picnic. You heard my order, didn't you? We were supposed to handle this quickly and efficiently. Do we really have time to get out and eat? This isn't a picnic. This is a picnic. Why change the schedule? No matter how long it takes, the destination won't change. Olivia looked up. The two sat side by side as the breeze brushed through their hair. Edwin turned toward her. By the way, have you noticed that all the knights are watching you? Olivia looked around at the attendants in the distance. Why? Why is everyone looking at me? One knight held bread in his mouth. How could we dare eat first when Milady hasn't even taken a bite yet? Olivia lifted the sandwich and opened her mouth to take a bite. As she chewed, her green eyes shone faintly. It's delicious. Edwin, He looked at Olivia with a slight smile. I'm glad you like it. Sandwiches really are special when you eat them on a picnic, aren't they? Olivia lowered her head. Yes, they really are different. Can we have another picnic sometime? Olivia looked up. Can you do this twice, Edwin? He burst into laughter, his red eyes on Olivia. Of course. Hooves trampled the grass. Wheels rolled over the earth with a heavy rumble, and the carriage passed through the forest. Edwin rode up beside the window and looked in at Olivia inside the carriage. Are you bored? Olivia leaned against the window frame in silence. Edwin, I have a request. Olivia touched the curtain. Once we arrive in Wakan territory, I'm worried the people there may not welcome me. Could you stay by my side until I understand the situation? Everyone in Wakan will serve you with all devotion, my lady. Olivia looked at Edwin. I'm asking about their loyalty, not their service. The Emperor and the former Archduke clashed, and as his proxy, he was forced to wander from battlefield to battlefield until his death. The current Archduke, as successor to the former one, likewise wandered through battlefields like a limb of the Emperor. The people of the duchy do not seem to welcome the Emperor. I need to confirm that with my own eyes. I am prepared to face everyone in Wakan, but I will do as you say. Olivia lifted her face and looked into Edwin's eyes. Won't you stop me, Edwin? He smiled faintly. If that's what you want, Olivia. Besides, even if I do nothing, the outcome won't change. You've already brought Winster to your side. Olivia turned her head. Lord Winster? Edwin urged his horse forward. He may look like that, but he's a knight of Wakan. For someone as picky as him to stand with you. That is your power, Olivia. The power to open people's hearts. Olivia touched the curtain, her golden eyes widening slightly. Edwin burst out laughing. You'll do very well in Wakan. Why should I worry? What I should worry about is what happens if you stop playing with me. The power I possess. Olivia folded her hands, a faint smile touching her lips. The Duke sat by the window and suddenly tightened his right hand, crumpling the leaf he held. Edwin stood in the middle of the hall. I've already said this ends here. I think I explained that clearly enough last time. Are you still approaching me as a declaration of war? The Duke looked at Edwin. If a father wishes to see his daughter, does your highness consider that a threat as well? Edwin turned slightly, the corners of his lips curling upward as his right hand brushed back the black strands over his forehead. Good heavens, what kind of father watches his daughter suffer alone? The Duke remained still. You know nothing about it. The Duke clenched his teeth, the corner of his mouth twitching. 21 years earlier, a brightly lit wooden loft stood in the night. The Duke leaned back on the sofa, his right hand pressed to his forehead. Duke Madeline, you look terribly drunk. A man lifted a bottle. Come, there's plenty of drink here. Please enjoy as much as you like. A woman spread her arms. I prepared a gift specially for this. A woman stood in the shadows. She wore a veil that draped down over her face. This woman will help you. The woman in the shadows stared ahead with green eyes. Albert entered carrying a tray. The tea from before has gone cold, so I brought a fresh cup. Thank you, Albert. He lifted the teapot and watched the steam rise. We're almost out of tea. This tea is good for the heart. Please make sure father drinks it. Olivia held the white porcelain teapot. The temperature of the cup should feel warm against the inside of your wrist. Just enough to feel gentle warmth. This is meaningless. The woman the Duke chose was actually Duke Madeline's daughter. Diane stood before the desk. I'm sorry, but wrong is wrong. How can someone from the Emperor's faction become a duchess? I even heard she's the Crown Prince's fiancée. Diane let out an angry shout. So what if she is? She is the woman to whom His Grace personally swore loyalty. Why are you making such a fuss? Her situation now is exactly the same as yours. Diane clenched his fist. Even so, who knows what scheme she has? She's nothing but a bundle of rumors. His Grace deserves a perfect woman, not. Diane pressed a hand to his forehead and let out a muffled groan. His golden eyes trembled in the shadows. Is your rejection flaring up again? I'll adjust it for you once more. Do you still hate having permanent magic cast on you? Thank you for your concern, but I feel fine right now. I'll return to my room. Diane turned and left. That child is kind, isn't he? Diane stood in the bath as water streamed down his bare chest. White vapor swirled overhead, gradually twisting into crooked lines and burrowing deep into his hair. Diane's eyes flew open. His golden pupils contracted sharply. Red sparks crackled around his eyes. Tiny crackling sounds filled the air. Damn it. Diane pressed a hand to his forehead, his right hand gripping the rim of the wooden tub. Say that again. Rena stared ahead, her blue eyes shaking with rage. Go on. Say it again if you dare. There is absolutely no way to reclaim the operating rights to the White Crystal Mine. Ownership has already been transferred through a magical seal. Edwin wrapped his arms around Olivia from behind, both hands gripping the reins of the black horse, a faint smile on his lips. The black steed raced through the white light, its hooves scattering the shimmer on the ground as it carried the two of them far away.